Pirate's Most Powerful Villain, Chapter 381-400. Chapter 0381 _ The rain is coming, the wind is filling the building. You really are Emperor Qin. Trafalgar Law opened his mouth in shock. He just called with the attitude of trying it out, but he didn't expect the other party to actually appear. Thinking of this, Luo's eyes narrowed and he said defensively, "Be careful, his ability is acceleration. To be precise, it is not as simple as speeding up. Similar to the fruit of his operation, a special space can be opened, and in this acceleration space, the opponent has an unparalleled speed that surpasses everything. My crew was taken away by him. Please help me one more time," Luo said quickly. Hearing this, Qin Yang glanced at him and said nothing. He was thinking about who the person in front of him was and why he wanted to arrest Luo. "What's your name? Who is it? What's the purpose? Qindi, how did you suddenly appear?" Man stood 100 meters away and looked alert. "It's unreasonable, what does your dream have to do with the heart pirates?" Without any information in this regard, the man never expected that the dreamy Emperor Qin would suddenly appear. It was originally a simple task, but now that Emperor Qin intervenes, the situation has become very bad. "Don't answer." Qin Yang spoke calmly and said, "Let me deduce. You want to catch the heart pirates, either Marine or the bounty hunter, but if it's a bounty hunter, you don't need to catch his crew, so you must the probability is Marine. Besides, there are not many Marines with your skills. Who will you be, the new Marine Admiral?" Quote. The former Admiral Akainu became the Marshal, vacating the position of an Admiral, so Qin Yang felt that this person might be the new Admiral. "Unfortunately, you guessed wrong." The man narrowed his eyes and suddenly moved his right foot, kicking a piece of gravel away. Whoosh! This small stone hit Qin Yang at an absolute high speed that surpassed the speed of sound. Seeing this, Qin Yang raised his eyebrows and said inwardly, "Acceleration ability, not only to accelerate itself, but also to accelerate the objects it touches. It is really fast. In terms of speed, it is still above the Archangel, so Kizaru can be faster than him. However, just being fast doesn't make any sense." Before the small rubble that came flying, a web of electric light instantly filled the space before it touched Qin Yang's body. The power of lightning. Man narrowed his eyes and said suddenly, "Emperor Qin, my name is Cisco, it's Marine." As soon as the military word came out, his figure suddenly disappeared. The next moment, the man had appeared in front of Trafalgar Law and grabbed it with a big hand. "It was an accident to meet you, but I must capture this man." His movements were very fast. He first used words to distract Qin Yang, and then suddenly started to arrest him with the advantage of speed. The plan was very good, however, Qin Yang had been prepared. "Stupid." Qin Yang snorted coldly, his eyes narrowed, and in an instant, his eyes turned into a kaleidoscope. At the same time, as far as the line of sight can be, a black flame ignites with a puff. Amaterasu. The blazing black fire, without warning, suddenly appeared between Luo and the man. It was like an invisible wall, dividing the two sides. Damn! The man shrank his hands like lightning, not daring to touch the Amaterasu flame at all. The information about this kind of flame in the intelligence is very perfect. It ignites when it is touched, and it cannot be thrown away until the target is burned to death. "It seems that you don't want to say, he he he." Qin Yang chuckled, his body moved, and he suddenly approached. Taking a step forward, he has already appeared behind the man. So fast. The man's pupils shrank, and he didn't dare to stay in place. Under the acceleration state, he seemed like a flash of lightning, and with a swoosh, he had already appeared 100 meters away. "I want to run now, it's too late," Qin Yang said calmly. Illusions manifest. As soon as a thought was born, in an instant, the space around the man changed, as if countless ghosts from hell were suddenly appearing, and they all rushed towards the opponent. Seeing this scene, the man took a deep breath and said to himself, "It seems that Luo can't catch it. With Emperor Qin here, I don't have the slightest chance, so let's run first. Thinking of this, he immediately shouted, Emperor Qin, I'll let him go this time, but next time, I won't be so lucky. Speaking, he jumped, the whole person turned into a bunch of arrows, swish, flew out of the air, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. This ability is a little troublesome. I want to run and it's not easy to catch. Qinyang stared at the direction where the person disappeared, and couldn't help shaking his head. Unfortunately, this clone only has less than 1/3 of the combat power of the main body, otherwise it would be easy to catch it. This man who calls himself Hisco, no surprise, should be a Paramesha accelerator fruit ability. This acceleration not only refers to the speed, but the explosive force is very strong. From static to supersonic speed, Kizaru's glint fruit can move at the speed of light, but every time Kizaru moves, it needs to be fluidized, so in fact, in terms of explosive power, this person is stronger. Did you run away? Luo breathed a sigh of relief. Running very fast. Qinyang turned to look at Luo and asked, who is this person? I don't know, it suddenly appeared. He recounted the general situation, and finally said, thank you for your help this time. However, my crew was captured by him, and I have to find a way to save them. Then ask yourself for more happiness. Qinyang chuckled, don't expect me to save you next time, see you later. As he spoke, his thoughts moved, and the projection instantly shattered into bits of light. Seeing this, Luo was stunned, and after a while, he sighed and said, I want to say, help me again, forget it, get out of here first, or that person might kill the carbine. Meanwhile, Mysteria, the study. Qinyang opened his eyes, Hisco, Marine's admiral, or someone from the government. The purpose of their arrest should be for the fruit of the operation. The fruit of surgery is related to immortality, and immortality is related to national treasure. Marine wanted to arrest someone, Qinyang of course had to destroy it. Go and ask Sengoku, who is Hisco? Of course, it could be a pseudonym. Thinking like this, Qinyang let the body disappear, and he controlled accelerator and left the study. Few days of 0.3, several major events occurred that shocked the world. First, the former Marine Admiral Akainu took up the post of Marshal and issued a wanted notice to all the Dream Pirates. Second, the selection of the new Marine Admiral is over, and the person who becomes the Admiral is called Ryokugyu. Thirdly, Eye of the Sky, Vio announced that he had withdrawn from King Shichibukai. Fourth, gluttonous, Hino withdrew from Shichibukai under the king and joined forces with the Blackbeard pirates to form the Pirate Alliance. Fifth, Marshal Akainu cancels Heavenly Yaksha, Doflamingo's Shichibukai title. Sixth, one of the original 4 emperors, Kaido appeared in the Meteorite Islands, slaughtered 3 pirate groups, and dominated the Chaotic Sea. The big events are dizzying, but anyone who is a little sensitive can perceive the atmosphere that the mountains and the rain are coming. The world that has been quiet for a long time is about to usher in a big change. Chapter 0382-Purify the whole world. In just a few days, several major events have happened in a row, which is dizzying, and cannot help but feel a dangerous atmosphere. Marine, the replacement of the Marshal, the birth of the new Admiral, the 3 Kings Shichibukai left at once, and even the original 4 Emperor Kaido, who had been silent and disappeared for 9 years, appeared again. Everything is moving in an unknown direction. Soon after, the first half of the Great Route, the Food Island. This world-renowned island holds food festivals and cooking competitions every year. There are countless first-class chefs who come here to participate in the activities, and they can eat delicacies from all over the world in one go. Commander Hethko, intelligence shows that gluttonous girl, Jenny Bonnie has landed here. A man in a black suit spoke softly. He was a member of the government's intelligence agency, similar to CP9, but not of the same agency. I know. Since I didn't catch Luo, then this woman must be arrested. You search the whole city and keep your movements secretive. I'm afraid that Emperor Qin will come again to disturb her. Yes. When his subordinates left, Cisco sighed and frowned deeply. For the past few days, he has been thinking about the relationship between Dream and the 15 Heart Pirates. What the hell is going on? If Emperor Qin just happened to know Luo, it would be easier to handle, but if it didn't but it appeared for other reasons, then it would be troublesome. Luo, he didn't have the guts to catch him again. The last time he was able to escape from Emperor Qin's hands, it was because the other party had no interest in chasing him. Otherwise, even if he could escape with his acceleration fruit, there were 2 reasons. Anyway, Bonnie must be taken away first. Mysteria, Fantasy Division. Qinyang sat upright and listened to the reports of his subordinates. Hisco is the commander-in-chief of the world government's entire army, who has the ability to accelerate the fruit. 9 years ago, the whereabouts of the former commander Kong Sora was unknown, and his life and death were unknown. After the government could not find the bones, a year later, Cisco he became the new head coach, and it's been until now. Sengoku spoke calmly and said, he is rarely in charge of pirates. Most of the time, he deals with things related to the Revolutionary Army. I don't know why he caught a new pirate this time. Don't play stupid, of course you know something. Qinyang shook his head and said, however, you don't need to answer. I can guess what they want to do. Speaking of which, this guy's escape skills are really superb. Hearing this, Sengoku nodded and said, when Sora was still the commander-in-chief, he was an admiral. The 3 admirals at that time were me, Sengoku the Buddha, Black Arm, Zephyr, and, Chasing the Sun. Sku. Zephyr Admiral, that's a famous guy. The 3 admirals, Kuzan, Kizaru, and Akainu, were all students of this man. As for Cisco, this was the first time Qinyang had heard of it. Counting the time, this person should have been Admiral 20 or 30 years ago, a top marine in the Roger era. Oh. I see, no wonder I can become the new commander-in-chief. Qinyang nodded clearly. P. Shan. You. Thinking of this, he waved his hand and said, leave him alone, what else is there to report? One thing. Sengoku said solemnly. Kuzan wants to see you, he has been waiting on the island for almost a month. Kuzan. Qinyang was stunned for a while, then remembered that there seemed to be such a thing. At first, he didn't have time to talk to him, so he kept hanging on to each other, and it's been almost a month. Go and bring him here. Okay. Sengoku nodded and turned to leave. Before long, Kuzan came to the parlor. Qinyang is right here. Compared with 9 years ago, the current Kuzan's temperament has undergone great changes. He wears round sunglasses on his face, wears a jacket, carries a bag on his shoulders, and looks like a mess, like traveling around. Accelerator, the dream envoy. Kuzan said lazily, I thought you were going to hang me for a year. Tell me, what's your purpose? Actually, I want to see your Emperor Qin, but it looks like he won't let me see it. Kuzan scratched his head and said helplessly, I was entrusted by someone to invite you to meet someone. Who? Father. Huh. Qinyang raised his eyebrows. For a while, he didn't think what kind of thing a priest was. As if seeing his doubts, Kuzan explained, the priest is just a title, his name is Siji, he is a brutal pirate, and later he changed his mind and became a peaceful believer. Oh yes, he is the top one of several devil fruit abilities, the life fruit ability. Hearing this, Qinyang's eyes flashed. The fruit of life, Paramesha, when you eat it, you can obtain eternal youth, your body will not grow old, and you can maintain your peak combat power until death. Of course, this is only the most basic ability of the fruit of life, and it can be called the top, but of course it is more than this level. Interesting, I don't know this person, why does he want to see me and wait? Qinyang asked. You don't know him, he knows you, and your archangel shot down his kingdom of God. Kuzan gave a rare laugh. When he heard the news of the fall of the kingdom of God, his face was dark. Huh, Sky Island Divine Kingdom. Qinyang always felt that Kuzan was gloating, Divine Kingdom is not a saint. No, the Holy Maiden is just one of his chess pieces. He gave Angel the power of the angel fruit. Kuzan shook his head, and after a while, he added, to be precise, Angel didn't eat the angel fruit, and she wasn't even capable. What do you mean? It was an angel statue in the temple that ate the fruit, and the statue gave Angel the power of an angel. Kuzan scratched his head, hesitated to explain, thought for a moment, and finally said, this is the power of the fruit of life, and therefore, a statue can eat a fruit. In simple terms, you can understand it as a priest. A statue is given life, so the statue can eat the angel fruit. The advantage of this is that if the saint dies, he can find a new one, and he must be busy looking for the new generation of saints, now. Angel fruits can absorb faith and become powerful. The so-called Saintus 330 is probably used to make the statue stronger. That woman named Angel, although she possesses the power of an angel, cannot be regarded as a capable person herself. It's amazing, Paramesha is the strongest. Qinyang said jokingly. Then what does he want to do? The priest wants to make the statue very powerful. According to the record of the devil fruit icon, the angel fruit has the ability to purify all evil thoughts in the world. Kuzan said solemnly, speaking of this, you also understand. Father CG wants to purify the whole world and end the era of great pirates. What nonsense, a mere fruit ability, still want to purify the world. It takes a long time to purify island by island. As for purifying the whole world in one breath, does he think it is a holy archangel? Archangel can't do this kind of thing, unless it reaches 5 stars, there is still a possibility. What's the matter with me? Qinyang snorted softly. Oops, I've said so much, don't you want to meet this legend? Kuzan said helplessly, although I don't know what he wanted to do when you fell to the ground, but it should be a very important thing. Well, what you said also makes sense. Just with his plan to purify the world, I will meet him. Qinyang grinned and said, also, maybe I can help him with his plan. Help? Kuzan shuddered, dreamily helping, and it's almost the same for a cup of the ingredients. Chapter 0383_World Conference. To help, of course, not really to help the priest. How could Qinyang have that interest and time? After hearing what Kuzan said, a new idea came to his mind. If the 5-star Holy Archangel, that is, the 10-winged Archangel, cooperated with the temple statue, can the power of holy light be able to purify the whole world in one breath? The statue acts as an amplifier, multiplying the power of the Archangel. Of course, this is just an inference, whether it is feasible or not is unknown, and it is not now, until he overthrows the world government and establishes a new order. If it succeeds, it may be able to suppress all the pirates on the Great Route, thus ending the era of the great pirates that lasted for more than 20 years. Thinking of this, Qinyang immediately nodded and said, where is the priest now? In the fallen kingdom of God. Kuzan said uncertainly. Of course, it is also possible that he is looking for a new generation of saints. I see, I will tell the Archangel and let him go to the kingdom of God. You go. This, Kuzan didn't say anything more. He glanced at Sengoku beside him, nodded as a greeting, and then turned to leave. As soon as he was gone, Sengoku said, you want to use that statue? Isn't it possible? Qinyang looked far away and said with a smile, the era of the great pirates started by Roger will come to an end sooner or later, and I have already collected 3 copies of the red stone rubbings. Huddle's Day, when all the secrets will be revealed. In fact, he had little interest in what a blank 100 years of history. That period of history, based on the information we know now, is nothing more than a huge ancient country that was overthrown by the 20 kings at that time, and these 20 countries finally won the victory and established the world government. The reason for destroying that piece of history is naturally to hide something. If the world government wants to gain legal dominance, it must erase the past of the losers. Because of the great possibility, the 20 kings used some shady means in order to win. Sengoku, do you think the current world is ideal? Ideal. The world is always full of contradictions. The ideal country does not exist. Where there is light, there is darkness, and we Marine exist to expel the darkness. Well, I am no longer a Marine. Sengoku gave a wry smile. He he he. Chinyong chuckled twice and said, soon, you will receive a daunting mission. I hope you can remember what you said now. The next day, Chinyong dispatched the phantom god of the Holy Archangel to the fallen Sky Island. This time, the main purpose of this action is to see the priest, hoping to reach a consensus with the other party. However, it doesn't matter if it is not achieved, it is also possible to seize the statue by force. Before the action, Doflamingo also completed the task and got the answer through the Tree of Omniscience. The answer is don't know. The so-called Tree of Omniscience is still 108,000 miles away from true omniscience. This result was also expected by Chinyong. He didn't care, everything would go according to plan. Kaido, Big Mom, Whitebeard, plus Dream, when the time comes, there will be 4 forces joining forces to attack the World Conference, erasing the top of the world government from a physical level and overthrowing their rule. Time passed quietly, and 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. In the past 3 months, the world has been very quiet, and even the activities of pirates are no longer ordinary, especially the New World, which is like a collective appointment to be silent, very peaceful. In the past 3 months, the most eye-catching is the first half of the Great Route. Above this vast sea known as the Sea of Paradise, a group of dazzling new pirates suddenly emerged. Because Marine was busy with other things, this group of supernova pirates passed through the most dangerous period of the early stage unharmed. One by one, the names began to spread all over the place. However, under this strange atmosphere, the World Conference, which was originally scheduled to be held 2 years later, was held ahead of schedule. The World Conference was held at the top of the Red Soil continent, the Holy Land Mariajoy. On this day, kings and princesses from nearly 150 countries from all over the world arrived at the conference venue. These participating countries come from various races, and they each have their own demands, and there are even wars between them. In the heart of the Holy Land Mariajoy, to the north of the World Government Building, there is a space dedicated to meetings. The huge field is circular, with 4 Gorosei, 5 elders sitting in the middle circle, and in the starting position of the Gorosei, 5 elders, the military commander-in-chief Cisco, as well as senior government officials. Then the outer seats are the seats of the major countries in the world. There were more than 1,000 people gathered in the entire venue, but the scene was very quiet. No one spoke loudly. Above the hall is a huge piece of glass through which sunlight penetrates, illuminating the entire hall. At this time, under the seat of the Gorosei, 5 elders, a high-ranking government official coughed twice and spoke into the microphone. Kings, princesses, princes, the 200th World Conference is about to begin, please remain silent. He is the speaker of the World Conference and presides over the conference. First of all, we first confirm whether the member states are all present. At present, there are 148 member states in the world government of the United Kingdom, and we will call them one by one. Speaker said loudly. The first one, the Kingdom of Dressrosa, King Riku. At position 001, King Riku, as well as the princess and others, raised their hands lightly. The second member, the Kingdom of Alabasta, the Neferutari clan. The third member, the Kingdom of East Blue Goya. The fourth member E.H. Suddenly, the speaker glanced at the manuscript, dumbfounded, and he glanced sharply at Gorosei, 5 elders. Seeing this, Gorosei, 5 elders frowned and cast a dissatisfied look. Immediately, the speaker bit his head and said, the fourth member, the Kingdom of Mysteria, King Don Quixote Doflamingo. What? As soon as these words came out, the scene was shocked, and then countless eyes turned to seat 004 in unison. At a glance, countless people were dumbfounded. There, Doflamingo leaned against the chair, looked at Erlang's legs, wore sunglasses, and sat there with a smirk. Although he didn't match his usual outfit, there was no doubt that it was indeed the original Shichibukai, Don Quixote Doflamingo. Fur. Doflamingo said with a strange smile, "What are you surprised about? Mysteria, but a long time ago, was a member state." The old man with crutches stared at him, suppressing his anger, and said, "When did you become a king? We didn't receive such information. It wasn't you who came to register yesterday. Where is the original king?" Fur. This question is easy to answer. Doflamingo grinned and said mockingly, "Just last night, the original king abdicated and appointed me to inherit his throne. I'm so sorry, old man, today, I am the king of the kingdom of Mysteria." Furra. Ha. With laughter, he said with great interest, "The World Conference. It's my first time attending, and I hope it won't be too boring." A group of high-ranking government officials, including the Gorosei, 5 elders, all had very gloomy expressions. How Doflamingo appeared, how he entered the Holy Land, and why he suddenly became king, these are no longer important. Importantly, things are in trouble. This guy is the number 1 dog leg in the dream. Does his appearance mean that the dream is also hidden among the thousands of people sitting down? Chapter 0384 How Can You Bear Me? Doflamingo appeared on the 4th seat of the World Conference as the king of the Kingdom of Mysteria. This caused countless people to fall into a sluggish state, and the appearance of such outlaws cast a shadow over the meeting before it even started. What the hell is this bastard thinking? Gorosei, 5 elders, his face was extremely ugly, he looked around at the other 3, and said, "Would you like to expel him?" Expel him? For what reason? He is now the king of the allied countries, unless the kingdom of Mysteria is eliminated now. Don't act rashly, the hated old man said solemnly. If he is expelled now, I am afraid it will be exactly what he wants, and he may use this to make a scene at the meeting. But without expulsion, how does the meeting begin? The old man with the national character face has a very bad tone. The main purpose of this meeting is to unite the major member states of the world and fight against the Dream Pirates. This dreamy number 1 dogleg is here. No matter how you think about it, there will be problems. What to do? Expel, or continue the meeting? Must be expelled. Otherwise, it will only complicate the problem. 4 Gorosei, 5 elders, disagreeing over time, with no final decision. The scene suddenly fell into a state of embarrassment. Gorosei, 5 elders did not speak, and the kings of the major kingdoms present were all confused. Fur. Doflamingo folded his arms and sat on his seat with a sly smile. World 337 government will expel him or let it go, it is expected. If it is the former, he can use it to attack and disrupt the meeting. If it is the latter, just sit for a while and listen to what this group of people will say. This eerily quiet scene lasted for more than 5 minutes, and finally, Gorosei, 5 elders reached an agreement. Don't expel Doflamingo for now, and when the issue enters the Dream Crusade, then find an excuse to let the other party get out. Continue, the old man on crutches said in a deep voice. After receiving the order, the speaker immediately breathed a sigh of relief and said into the microphone, "The 5th member, the Mermaid Kingdom of Fishman Island, King Neptune." Next, the list of members continued to be revealed. It includes more than 70% of the countries in the world, and it took half an hour just to confirm the participating member countries. More than 140 countries were introduced one by one, and Doflamingo couldn't help being drowsy. It's boring. Let's get started and discuss something meaningful. At the end of the final list, Doflamingo couldn't help but sighed and shouted. Quiet, the speaker said solemnly. This is a serious world meeting. Doflamingo, pay attention to your attitude. After he finished speaking, he finished the whole manuscript and coughed dryly. Then, next, the meeting officially begins. First of all, the first topic is about the heavenly gold that all countries in the world donate to Tenryubito. While the World Conference was being held as scheduled, outside the conference site, the new Marshal Marine, Akainu, was listening to the report of his subordinates. What did you say? He asked, frowning. Say it again. At the meeting, Doflamingo appeared. A rear admiral gritted his teeth. He suddenly became the kingdom of Mysteria and is qualified to participate. Damn it. Akainu's face sank, looked at Fujitora, and said, "Go to guard the entrance of the meeting, and you must not let the dreamers make trouble." Hearing this, Isho shook his head and said, "If I were them, I wouldn't go through the main entrance. No one knows where they would invade from." The appearance of Doflamingo made people realize that something was wrong. But when it comes to defense, how to protect? It is possible to appear at the meeting site out of thin air with the ability to appear and disappear. There are now nearly 150 kings of nations gathered there, and if anything bad happens, it will be a disaster. Akainu snorted coldly and said, "You guard the gate, Kizaru is in charge of patrolling the Holy Land. As for the air, let the people of the Holy Guard guard it. Those with flying ability among them will report to me immediately if they notice any changes." As he said that, he turned his eyes, but did not see the existence of the new admiral. "Where's Ryokugyu?" "I don't know, I was still here just now." A vice admiral replied in a low voice. "Bastard, what does this guy want to do?" Akainu was furious. At this moment, there was someone who acted without authorization. If this person hadn't possessed extraordinary combat power, he would have directly removed the opponent's admiral position. Marine, who is responsible for guarding the safety of the meeting, above the Holy Land Mariajoy, about 3 kilometers away, a going flying boat floats quietly. On the flying boat, there are 4 forces. Kaido pirates, 4 people, Kaido, floods, droughts, locusts. Whitebeard pirates, 1 person, Whitebeard. Big Mom pirates, 2 people, Charlotte Linlin, Lidget. As well as the Dream pirates, the 3, the Archangel of the Sky, the Special Messenger Accelerator, and the last, the user of the going boat, the hero King Gilgamesh. Everyone has arrived, why don't you start? Kaido narrowed his eyes and grinned. We joined forces, raided from the air, destroyed the meeting site, grabbed the Gorosei 5 elders, and forced out the whereabouts of the 4th red stone. Who can stop it? Don't worry, their meeting hasn't reached its climax yet. Accelerator shook his head. I'll let someone find out their guarding strength. Before that, have a cup of black tea. Saying that, he sat on the throne and poured tea for himself. You only dispatched 3 people. Charlotte Linlin said dissatisfiedly. Why didn't Emperor Qin come? Hearing this, the Holy Archangel said lightly, if Lord Qin takes action, what do you want to do? Charlotte Linlin was speechless for a moment. Emperor Qin was an invincible superpower in the contemporary era. If the other party made a move, she might have nothing to do with her. Then wait like this. After a moment of silence, she said angrily, I'm not interested in drinking tea. I can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. Accelerator drank the black tea gracefully and said with a smile, Shadow Demon. As soon as the voice fell, a wisp of black smoke flashed in front of him, and quickly condensed into a dark figure. You go to investigate, it is best to confirm the location of the red stone. No problem. The Shadow Demon nodded, glanced at a few people, and finally looked at Whitebeard, saying, if the sky suddenly turns dark, then it's a signal to do something. Goo la 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 I know. Whitebeard's eyes flashed and he nodded. Then I'll go. The Shadow Demon thought, and in an instant, the figure disappeared. At the same time, the meeting site. On the rostrum, wisps of dark smoke drifted out, like a vortex, condensing in an instant. Phew. The speaker's complexion changed greatly, and he scolded fiercely, just after shouting, his face changed suddenly, Shadow Demon. As soon as these words came out, there was a commotion at the scene. He. The Shadow Demon chuckled twice and snatched the microphone from the table. Don't be nervous, I'm just here to say hello. Pause, he added. I heard that you are holding a world conference. I am also very curious. 5 old immortals, sorry, it is 4 immortals and a bunch of messed up kings. What do you want to do? What can you do? You guys, I can't do anything. I'm just sitting here. What can you do with me? Saying that, the shadow demon turned to Gorosei, 5 elders, looked at the black faces of the 4, and laughed playfully. Ha ha ha, don't you agree? Then do something and let me see. Chapter 0385 the 16th change spot. Master, animation, the beauty is worthy of the beauty, the quality explodes, and then contributed $10 to it 23,333. Ha ha ha, I'm sitting here, can you take care of me tilde what? The shadow demon struttingly sat on the rostrum, grabbed the microphone, and ridiculed all the participants. While playing with the microphone, he crossed Erlang's legs and looked at Gorosei, 5 elders with playful eyes, no, the 4 old stars. Seeing this scene, many kings of a country suddenly stood up, as if they wanted to stay away from the shadow demon. It's a dreamy shadow demon. Let's go. This guy appears, I'm afraid it will bring disaster. Damn it. Doflamingo doesn't matter. After all, he still has the title of king, and the shadow demon even sneaked into the meeting site. The dream pirates are simply lawless. Of course, these words can only be said in a low voice. No one dares to make a loud noise. Everyone is afraid of being targeted by the shadow demon. This guy can even assassinate Tenryubito at will. It is not easy to kill them quietly. However, not everyone thinks this way. As a king, he has been in a high position for a long time, and some people have high self-esteem, and they immediately yelled at the provocation of the shadow demon. Dream pirates, you guys are going too far. This is the Sacred World Conference venue, how can you come here if you want? The speaker, chubby and luxuriously dressed, stood up at this moment and scolded loudly, where are the guards? Where is Marine? Gorosei, 5 elders, I request the arrest of this outlaw. And this bastard, Doflamingo. He secretly sold arms to this king's hostile country, causing this king's country to fall into a protracted war, please arrest him as well. Hearing this, the place fell silent. Many people, the king's eyes widened, looking at the fat man in surprise. This person is seat 108, the king of the New World Maya Kingdom, a country that is not too small. It is said that he took over his father's throne for just over a year, so he is only under 30 years old, and he is relatively young here. The king. At this moment, everyone looked at him with a strange look. Gorosei, 5 elders didn't even say a word, he jumped out impatiently, is it true that the murderous name of the dream is fake? Does this man think this is his palace not long after he became king? What an idiot, to provoke dreams so directly, if he is targeted, he will die, and no one can save him. HMPH, this person is not stupid. The shadow demon broke into the World Conference, and the Gorosei, 5 elders would never sit back and ignore it. The war was inevitable. Compared with this, we should first think about how to save his life in the riots that follow. Important. So many kings have their own thoughts, but most of them are afraid of the prestige of dreams and have the idea of leaving as soon as possible. For the fat king's sudden rise, the shadow demon lacked even interest in taking a look. However, Doflamingo let out a snort and moved his 5 fingers. In an instant, invisible silk threads like tentacles quietly wrapped around the fat king. The next moment, the face of the fat king changed, and he was shocked to find that his hands were out of control, and he was choking his neck. Wah! He opened his mouth and could only spit out half a word, and then he began to have difficulty breathing. Fur. Doflamingo laughed strangely, which theater is this? Your Majesty of the Kingdom of Meia, please start your performance. Stop it, Doflamingo. Perverted old man finally couldn't bear it any longer, and said angrily, do you want to cause a war in the World Conference? At the World Conference, if a king dies, it will be a major event. If the government does nothing, who will dare to attend the conference in the future? So, Gorosei, 5 elders have had to take a stand. Of course, he hates this fat man even more. If it wasn't for this idiot, they wouldn't be led by the nose and fall into complete passivity. For his words, Doflamingo did not hear it, as if he was manipulating a toy and teasing the king of the Memorican kingdom. Seeing this, Shadow Demon said, Doflamingo, the meeting was held for over an hour, What did they discuss? It's all boring things. Doflamingo glanced at his mouth disdainfully. For a decadent, inflexible, obtuse world government, a world conference can be held for half a month. More than a month ago. For hours, there was only one thing to discuss. Tenryubito was dissatisfied with the amount of tribute of heavenly gold and demanded an increase. Quote. Pause. He grinned again. Of course, there is also another reason. Every year, the golden ship in the sky is looted by some people, so huge losses have been caused. Tenryubito has no way to stop the looters, so he can only attack these allied countries. Yes. He. There is another sentence, he did not point out. The person who looted the gold in the sky has his share. In recent years, he has been doing it every year. What about Tenryubito? Can you take him as well? Hearing this, the shadow demon burst into laughter. Kings, you heard it too. Tenryubito, no, the scumbags are also worthy of standing at the pinnacle of power. The world government is also an incompetent institution, they are all incompetent. Don't deserve to rule this world. Now, you have an excellent opportunity. Right now, unite, kill the world government, and build a new world that is absolutely reasonable. Laughter was so rampant that Gorosei, 5 elders' hearts skipped a beat. Dream, these bastards, actually smashed the world and rebelled against the world government. This is a serious provocation, a declaration of war. Old Man in the Hat couldn't bear it any longer, and immediately shouted, the Holy Guard, arrest them both. Life and death don't matter. Reconsideration. The evil dreamers must be completely wiped out. Several old men opened their mouths one by one, with a completely unanimous attitude, and suddenly the Holy Guard outside the conference room took action. Boom. The gate was broken, and the next moment, a group of people dressed in white cloaks poured in. Seeing this, the shadow demon's face was as usual, his eyes narrowed, and in an instant, the whole world fell into darkness. Darkness is coming. The light disappeared, and beyond the glass above the conference room, the noon sun was gone, replaced by darkness. Whoosh. The figure has fallen from the sky, and at a very high speed, it suddenly descends. Boom. The roof of the large conference room was shattered, and along with the glass slag and the rubble, a burly man with a large naginata appeared out of nowhere. He descended directly into the conference center, wielding a large naginata sword, looked around the scene for a week, and said with a big laugh. Gulala, this is a day that changed history and will be remembered for thousands of years in the future. Gorosei, 5 elders, long time no see. Whitebeard. The expressions of the 4 old men changed drastically, and with a snort, they all stood up and looked at Whitebeard in disbelief. At the same time, above the Holy Land, above the going flying boat. Whoosh whoosh. Several figures jumped out again, attacking the Holy Land Mariajoy directly from the air. Kaido, the 3 disasters, Big Mom, everyone has already started, and at the moment when the night falls, there is no hesitation. On the throne, Accelerator did not act, but drank black tea leisurely. The Great War to rewrite history begins. He smiled and changed his appearance, turning into the appearance of Emperor Qin. Before that, start a new transformation. As soon as he thought about it, a big treasure box appeared in front of him, and the treasure box was full of devil fruits. Without any hesitation, Qin Yang directly absorbed 20 devil fruits. The next moment, the fantasy gene began to transform the body, and the mysterious power overflowed the whole body. At the same time, in Qin Yang's mind, the information of the new transformation quietly emerged. 16th change. Madara Ninja. Star rating. Ability 1. Shueiji Boundary Sharing Eye. After reading the information about this transformation, Qin Yang couldn't help but be surprised. It turned out to be Lord Ban. Afterwards, he didn't even think about it, and immediately began to absorb the fruits frantically. In a blink of an eye, a box of devil fruits was absorbed, and he directly pushed the new transformation to 5-star. 16th change. Madara Ninja. Star rating. Ability 1. Boundary of Blood Reincarnation Writing Wheel I. Ability 2, Fire Ninjutsu. Ability 3, Wood Done Ninjutsu. Ability 4, The Art of Psychic Seal. Ability 5, Ten Tails Pillar Power. Chapter 0386, Yin and Yang Dominate, 6 spots. 16th Change, Madara Ninja. Star Rating. Ability 1, Boundary of Blood Reincarnation Writing Wheel I. Ability 2, Fire Ninjutsu. Ability 3, Wood Done Ninjutsu. Ability 4, The Art of Psychic Seal. Ability 5, Ten Tails Pillar Power. Looking at this gorgeous panel, Qin Yang couldn't help but be a little surprised. Master Ban is worthy of being Lord Ban. After reaching a star rating, Sharingan has directly evolved into a reincarnation Sharingan. Eternal Kaleidoscope Shaker, Rinnegan, Reincarnation Shaker, 5 levels, just corresponding to 5 stars. The so-called Reincarnation Writing Wheel I, its pupil power has reached a peak, and can even release infinite monthly reading. The so-called Infinite Moon Reading is to reflect the Reincarnation Writing Wheel I on the surface of the moon, and use Gecko to emit ninjutsu. Radiance penetrates, and everyone who is illuminated by light will be in the illusion. It is a super large illusion, which can be called extinction. World Tricks. Of course, there are other names for reincarnation, which is also called Nine Buyu Rinnegan, or Eye of the Moon. The 2-star Uchiha Itachi's Kaleidoscope Writing Wheel I is 108,000 miles away compared to it. And these eyes, in addition to the super illusion of Infinite Moon Reading, there is also a trick called the Royal Palace of Heaven. Be able to create a free and unobstructed space, and open your eyes to the supernatural power of the ancestors. In an instant, it can transfer itself and the people around it to other spaces, including lava, ice, supergravity, sand, acid and other spaces, and these 5 spaces are directly connected to the original ball space. However, this trick, Uchiha Madara will not, at least Qin Yang has not read the relevant use information. It may take a certain degree of training to develop. Besides that, Samsara Shaker contains all the abilities of Rinnegan and Shaker. Qin Yang whispered to himself, one of the ultimate forms of pupil art. This is only the first ability. As for the Fire Done Ninjutsu, of ability 2, and the Wooden Ninjutsu, of ability 3 are also extremely powerful. Especially the Wood Done Ninjutsu, one of which is called the Tree World Descents, which is also quite powerful. The ability of the 4 psychic seals is a combination of psychics and seals. The ability to psychics includes, but is not limited to, 9-tailed fox, foreign golem, and other psychics. At the same time, it also has too powerful the sealing technique. Of course, this 9-tailed fox cannot be psychic in this world, including the outsider golem. After all, no matter how powerful the psychic is, it cannot truly be summoned across the dimensional world. The above abilities are only the first 4 stars. Madara's ability to appear in the 5 stars is the 10-tailed pillar power, and this is Madara's ultimate power. The 10-tailed human pillar power refers to a pattern similar to the image of the immortals of the 6 paths after absorbing the combination of the 9-tailed beasts, 10 tails, into the body, also known as the 6 paths mode. In this state, the spot can be called 6 spots. 7Z. The 6 spots control fire, earth, wind, and water, thunder, yin and yang. All 7 attributes can be described as perfect. Yin and yang dominate the 6 spots. Qin Yang couldn't help laughing, and slowly got up from the throne. The battle strength it can be compared to the sea dragons, sea dragon god, form, and it is much higher than other dominant cadres. It can even be comparable to the deputy of Aizen captain. Sea Dragon's 5-star ability is Sea Dragon God, which has never been used before, but Qin Yang really has mastered it. As for Aizen, Jinghua Shuiyu is almost incomprehensible, especially Bengyu's immortality and immortality, which makes Aizen extremely special. In terms of destructive power and lethality, Lu Daoban will not be weaker than him. For a powerful new transformation, the price is nearly 150 devil fruits, and the consumption is really not small. Qinyang shook his head. If it wasn't for my devil fruit reserves, I'd be less than 5 stars. As it is now, even if one Uchiha Madara is filled, there is still nearly 180 surplus. Thinking of this, Qinyang walked to the edge of the going flying boat and stared at the Holy Land below. Looking down from an altitude of more than 3,000 meters, the Holy Land is just a black spot the size of a fingernail. The turmoil has begun, and the protagonist should also come on stage to show it. Qinyang chuckled twice, and jumped off the flying boat in one leap. Acting together, there is also the Archangel. Of course, the mission of the Archangel is not to participate in the war, but to be responsible for an action at the last minute. As for Jin Xiao, he stayed on the flying boat and broke. At this moment, the scene of the World Conference is already in chaos. Whitebeard made the situation run wild. Countless kings no longer cared about the World Conference, and under the protection of the Holy Guard, they all fled. However, before they could run far, several silhouettes fell from the sky and intercepted them in front. Boom boom boom. The few people who fell outrageously changed everyone's expressions. Kaido, big mom. Ola Ola, where do you want to go? Kaido patted the smoke on his shoulders, and as he stepped closer, his eyes glowed blood red. Want to see hell? Kings. He let the old lady eat their souls. Charlotte Linlin laughed, and suddenly, a soul monster from the ground broke out, and the sound of roar resounded. Distance. Admiral Fujitora,'s expression was solemn, it's troublesome. In addition to Dream, even Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom are dispatched together. Why? Although it is not uncommon for pirates to join forces, it can be said that it is the first time that the forces of the 4 emperors have joined forces, and they still have to besiege the Holy Land. All crazy. At the same time, the meeting site. The Gorosei, 5 elders, staring at Whitebeard, shouted, "What are you doing? Whitebeard, what do you want?" "Gu la la la," Whitebeard said with a hearty smile. "I was only ordered to participate in the operation, and I am also happy to witness such a major event that changes history." This, without waiting for the Gorosei, 5 elders to speak, the shadow demon who had been sitting still took the lead and said, "I leave it to you, Whitebeard, my task is to find that thing." Speaking of which, he suddenly raised his head and looked at the broken ceiling. Reinforcements are coming. After he finished speaking, his figure puffed into countless black smoke and disappeared. The next moment, the strange movement from the sky caused Gorosei, 5 elders and others to look up. It was a figure that fell rapidly, suddenly burning flames, like an extraterrestrial meteor, and slammed into the meeting site. Boom! In the loud noise, thick smoke and dust were set off. There are still people. The perverse old man's heart twitched, and his body trembled. Not frightened, but angry, already angry beyond control. This is a holy place, known as the absolutely safe place in the world, and now it is a shame that people are breaking into it one after another. Who are you? The old man with the national character face gritted his teeth, staring deeply at the man walking out of the smoke. The man has long hair and is dressed in armor. The bangs cover one eye. The exposed one has a 3-ringed pupil, which seems to be the eye that sees through life and death. Hearing the Gorosei, 5 elders, question, Qinyang grinned, folded his arms around his chest, and looked directly at everyone. "Who am I?" he chuckled. Whitebeard couldn't help but startled. Although he could guess that this person should be a dreamer, he really didn't know who it was. Just heard Qinyang speak indifferently. "I am a dream, yin-yang ruler, Lu Dao spot. Dominant class." Gorosei, 5 elders trembled inwardly, and their expressions changed. Chapter 0387 Almighty Push. Second update. Recently people have been asking me whether the evolution system is my vest. Let me reply. It's not my vest. I don't know the author. I can't allow others to imitate it. I'm so big the power of Philo is not driven by me. As for even the author's name is similar, well, Philo is called XX who can fly. There are many, and I am not the only one. What can I say? I am a dream cadre, the master of yin and yang who masters the power of yin and yang and the 5 elements, 6 spots. Another dominance. Yin and yang dominate. If I remember correctly, the top 10 masters of dreams are the ocean, sky, earth, abyss, time and space, thunder, yin and yang, life, mind, and starry sky. One of the 10 rulers. The old man with crutches had a livid look, and his brows were full of black energy. At the auction back then, the so-called yin and yang rulers were not like you. At that time, to be precise, 9 years ago, in the #1 auction in the world held by Dream, except for one abyss, the other 9 appeared on the stage. At that time, Marine took down the appearance, but the person in front of him was far from the information obtained by the 515 old star. No matter how you look at it, it is not the same person. He. Qin Yang sneered, it's just an illusion, thank you for taking it seriously. This, Gorose, 5 elders' faces turned pale, and they didn't expect that they and others would be tricked by the dream ones. Who would have guessed that in that scene, there were false existences among the 9 masters who appeared? Damn dream. The old man on crutches narrowed his eyes, he finally couldn't sit still, and the whole person exuded a tyrannical haki. In an instant, a conqueror haki swept the audience. Poo-poo-poo, the old man's shirt burst, and then his upper body, the muscles rapidly expanded, the biceps above his arms, like an iron ball, full of explosive power. Today, they are aggressive, and the purpose is probably not simple. In any case, we have to take action in person. His voice was low, as if warning the other 3 old men. What about the king outside? The old man in the hat gritted his teeth. I can feel 2 powerful auras, Kaido and Big Mom. Most of the people who can become the king of the previous country have strong combat power, especially the major powers. Instead of worrying about them, let's deal with the dominant cadre first. Several people whispered and then reached an agreement. The next moment, everyone focused on Qin Yang and Whitebeard. The pressure of the 2 4 emperors is as heavy as a mountain. Just standing there, their sense of existence cannot be ignored. Gorose, 5 elders, I'm here to contain the Dream Master. At this time, the army commander Hethko said coldly, I can only contain one person, and if I die, remember to bury my body in Marine Cemetery. As soon as the voice fell, he suddenly turned over the table in front of him. Whoosh! The long table entered super acceleration in an instant, and suddenly bombarded Qin Yang. Hold me down, don't be too arrogant. Qin Yang's eyes narrowed, and in an instant, with himself as the center, a force of repulsion formed a protection. Before the long table was close, under the force of repulsion, it shattered into pieces and turned into ashes. At the moment when the table was broken, Cisco in the distance, with his right hand, slipped out 3 slender long needles from under the sleeve tube, and then swish, swish, 3 sharp long needles, shot Qin Yang violently 3 key points. Eye, throat, heart. The outbreak of the battle was very sudden, but all the first-class masters present were able to react in a flash. Gorose, 5 elders clearly sensed that the 3 long needles shot suddenly fell into a still state when they were 1 meter away from Qin Yang's body. Immediately afterwards, the 3 attacks were blasted out as they were. What? Hisko's complexion changed slightly, his right foot stepped to the right, and he dodged, narrowly avoiding his own attack. Accelerator's reflection. He thought suspiciously. I thought I could make the other party scrambling, but he didn't even move his fingers, and his attack was resolved. As if he understood what he was thinking, Qin Yang said calmly, with your knowledge, of course you don't understand. How can you guess the power of a master like me? Saying that, he slowly probed his hand and grabbed Hisko from the air. Universal pull. Boom. Suddenly, Cisco felt that the blood flow speeded up, and his heart skipped a beat. Then he was horrified to find that his body actually vacated the ground and was absorbed by invisible forces, flying straight towards Qin Yang. Repulsion and gravity, he blurted out with wide eyes. And this suction force, the closer it gets to Qin Yang, the stronger it is, and because of this, his speed also increases rapidly. Seeing that he was about to be caught, Cisco made a decisive decision, touched back with his left hand, took out a dagger from behind, and then turned the tip of the knife and stabbed Qin Yang brazenly. 10 times faster. He drank lowly, and in an instant, his speed accelerated again, 10 times faster, under the suction and pull of the universal pull. It burst out in an instant, far exceeding the reflex nerves of human beings. With such a reckless style of play, Cisco is ready to lose both. Go to hell. When approaching Qin Yang for half a meter, Cisco roared loudly. HMPH, stupid, I know your ability, will you not take precautions? Qin Yang's eyes were calm, as if pity, his left hand stretched out like lightning, and directly grabbed the opponent's wrist. Boom. Cisco's advance was abruptly stopped. Wakija's blade suddenly hovered 3 centimeters in front of Qin Yang, and it was no longer possible to advance an inch. Impossible. Cisco's pupils shrank by 200, and he said incredulously, what kind of insight is this? Under that kind of speed, he can accurately grasp his wrist, which is beyond imagination. Dodging, he can understand, and he can accept this stab hard, but he can only grab his wrist and defuse the attack from the basics, which makes him unbelievable. Can't you understand? Your speed, under my pupil power, is meaningless. Qin Yang stared at the other party and clasped the other party's wrist tightly. By the way, let me tell you again, the reason why I can be called the Master Leader is because when the 3-layer seal is unlocked, he has the combat power of the 4th Emperor. Hearing this, Cisco's body trembled. With only 3 layers of seals, it has the power of the 4 Emperors. Is this the dominant cadre? And I am the master who has unlocked all the 5-layer seals, and has the combat power of the Super 4 Emperors. Qin Yang's pair of renegons, like a peculiar whirlpool, are deeply attracting Cisco's attention. Your eyes. God Luo Tianzheng, ____. Qin Yang spoke word by word. Suddenly, with him as the center, a manic force of repulsion swept out, and it seemed like a circle visible to the naked eye, flattening everything. Cisco was the first to be impacted by the repulsion force, and the whole person's internal organs were stirred for a while. Like a missile, they were bounced out. The entire conference room, under the expansion of an invisible ball, was razed to the ground in an instant. Boom. Chapter-381-1 is not enough. One more. Boom. The repulsive force centered on Qin Yang takes on the shape of a sphere, pushing everything horizontally. The floor tiles of the conference room were overturned, revealing the earth, colored mud tables, chairs and benches, and everything was bounced off. Cisco was the first among them. The whole person's internal organs were hit, his face turned pale, and at the same time he spit out a mouthful of snow. He was smashed into the air by the repulsion force. Whitebeard subconsciously raised his hand to resist, however, facing the impact of almighty push, he was also forced to keep retreating outwards. The Gorosei 5 elders did the same, scurrying away one by one, dodging far away. This guy's ability is repulsion and gravity. Before the entire conference building collapsed, Cisco roared and passed on the information he had probed. The next moment, the entire building collapsed suddenly, and countless pieces of gravel and mud were squeezed and fell in all directions. The walls disintegrated, and many guards who had no time to escape were buried. Afterwards, the repulsion spread outwards and spread to the nearest government building. This building, which symbolized the highest power, also disintegrated and destroyed. In just a short time, everything within a radius of several hundred meters was razed to the ground, leaving no grass. After a long time, the thick smoke and dust gradually drifted away, and everyone could see everything in the ruins. As far as the eye can see, in the center of the original World Conference site, there is a muddy surface. Only Qin Yang stands quietly. The splendid conference hall has disappeared. They have been turned into fragments and piled up with countless rubble, forming a circle of broken things around, as if to tell the tragic before. Under the rubble, at least thousands of bodies were buried. The old man with gwosy face stared blankly at this scene, his right fist was clenched tightly, and the blue veins burst out on his forehead. Dream. His voice was sharpened with anger. Aren't you here? Qin ignored his resentful gaze, but frowned and looked at his feet, whispering to himself, is it underground? In the future seen by the omniscient and omnipotent star, the fourth red stone is hidden in a dark space. However, he has overturned the ground for at least a few meters, but he still does not see any violations. Within the range of perception, there are no abnormal places that can cover up the location of the red stone. Maybe there are other powers. He secretly pondered in his heart, and at the same time distracted and controlled the shadow demon, searching underground. The shadow demon is the body of the shadow, invisible and intangible, and it is easy to travel through the surface, but it just takes some time. The Holy Land is very large, and it is not easy to find a stone. Just thinking about it, suddenly, a golden laser was projected from the sky. Qin head turned vivid, and this light-speed attack rubbed his hair and passed by the side of his face. Tilde. Boom. Qian. The next moment, the laser bombarded the ground causing a big explosion. Kizaru. Qin raised his eyebrows and looked in the direction the attack came from. I saw 1,000 meters away, above a clock tower, shining a golden cross. In the blink of an eye, the golden light suddenly flew over, like a beam of vertical golden light, coming to Qin in an instant. You are too arrogant to attack the Holy Land swaggeringly and unite the 3-4 emperors. Photons condensed and turned into the appearance of Kizaru, and he kicked and swept over. Light speed kick. Seeing this, Qin grinned Isho and made a lightning strike with one hand. In the next second, the speed of light kick swept across, and Qin was kicked out in an instant. This heavy kick, like a big sword, could cut people off in the middle. However, Kizaru's face was startled. I don't feel like I'm kicking a human body. His eyes looked at Qin who was kicked flying, but he saw the other party slam and explode, turning into pieces of broken wood. Ninjutsu. Clone jutsu. Oh, you know a little. A strange sound sounded, and I saw a crackling sound under the surface, and a tree grew out in a short period of time, breaking through the soil and turning into a tree more than 10 meters high. Inside the trunk of the big tree, a human face slowly emerged, and then Qin stepped out. It's really a ninja. Kizaru looked horrified, but felt that the other party was extremely difficult. There is a Wano-kuni in the New World, and there are ninjas in that country, who can do some wonderful ninjutsu. Are you from Wano-kuni? Speaking, he paused and denied. No, according to your dream, you should be a character from a long time ago. You call yourself Ludaoban. What is your relationship with Wano-kuni? He. Hearing this, Qin couldn't help laughing. You're thinking fast, but unfortunately you guessed wrong. I'm not from Wano-kuni, so I have nothing to do with them. Secondly, don't compare that kind of third-rate ninja with me. Really? Kizaru looked solemn, and immediately took out a phone bug and instructed. Zan Taomaru, let them take action, sinners. Okay, old man. There was a young and powerful response on the phone. The next moment, there was a tremor in the ground, as if an army was scurrying away. Qin looked sideways and saw a red-haired orc 20 to 30 meters tall running wildly. Behind him is a dinosaur with a length of 100 meters, an ostrich with a long beak full of fangs, and a furry mysterious creature rounded like a ball. And behind the three ancient species, there is a group of able-bodied legions in prison uniforms. Dream. Quote. A low roar came, and the red-haired orc was holding a huge stone hammer, as if he had a deep hatred, and his tone was full of killing intent. It was you. Qin was stunned. I remember correctly, this person should be a cadre of the Storm Pirates, Zone, ancient species, orc form, who was suppressed by the Holy Archangel in the Battle of Cake Island. Of course, this group of people was later arrested by Marine and imprisoned in the deep-sea prison. I didn't expect to see them today. As for the zone-capable people behind the red-haired giant, Qin didn't know them. They should all be prisoners. Our storm pirates are incompatible with your dreams. The red-haired giant roared angrily. Holding a huge stone hammer, he lifted it up in a leap, and the lifted hammer slammed down towards Qin Shang leisurely and said calmly, "A broken hammer also wants to hurt people. Today, I will show you what a thing is used to smash people." As he spoke, his eyes froze, and in an instant, above the sky, a huge black shadow suddenly enveloped the Holy Land. Heavenly shocks the stars. Above the night sky, a huge black planet that can be seen by looking up no matter where you are in the Holy Land suddenly descends. What? The red-haired orc opened his mouth wide, and all the words seemed to be choked in his throat. When? Qin chuckled, his expression full of leeway. Stupid question, of course, when my idea was born. This is the big hammer that smashes people. Boom. Huge wind noise came, and the dark star was hundreds of meters in diameter, descending on everyone's heads, obscuring the night sky, making this world extremely dark. One is not enough. How about another? As soon as the voice fell, everyone was shocked to find that above the dark star, there was another huge celestial body breaking through the clouds and descending. One up and down, two huge celestial bodies fell to the sinners in a posture of crushing all things. This is really a master class. Whitebeard murmured in shock. Chapter 0389 _ desperately powerful. Open black lens bracket first update ~~ close black lens bracket. This really the master class? Whitebeard murmured in shock. It's not that I haven't seen it before, but the battle power shown by this newly emerging yin and yang master at this moment is beyond expectations. In the blink of an eye, two huge dark celestial bodies were created and smashed directly from the sky. This is far beyond everyone's imagination. Such a large-scale attack obviously wants to shatter the Holy Land with one blow. Smash it, the sinners. Suddenly, the old man with a national character in Gorose, 5 elders shouted, "It must not fall. Stop it, and I will agree to your terms." Hearing this, the red-haired orc's eyes flashed, and he immediately gritted his teeth. "Remember what you said." He discarded the huge stone hammer in his hand, gave up to deal with Qin, turned to squat, and then jumped suddenly. Boom! With a loud bang, the ground cracked open, and the red-haired orc rose into the sky like a missile, heading towards the dark stars. He is an ancient species, an awakened zone-capable person. In the form of an orc, his strength is multiplied, and his jumping ability is even more amazing. During this leap, he flew to an altitude of several hundred meters. The red-haired giant put his hands up, trying to stop the falling star. However, compared with his body, which is only 20 or 30 meters, the volume of 263 heavenly stars on one top and bottom is dozens or hundreds of times his size. It's so heavy, how can this stop? The red-haired giant's expression changed drastically. With his full-strength blow, he couldn't shake Tianqing at all, and he couldn't even stop it for half a second. Two gigantic stars rolled over in an upright manner, as if they had run over an ant, a mere ancient species, with no half-silk effect. Below, a group of people from the sinners' army were all in shock. Without saying a word, half of them started to flee. Damn it! If I knew earlier, I shouldn't have promised the government. To protect the safety of the Holy Land is to treat us as cannon fodder. Run! We have no grievances with Fantasia. I think the world government is about to end. If we don't run now, when will we wait? Go! This kind of war scene, where we stay here, will only be insignificant victims. A large group of criminals in prison uniforms fled. These people are all extremely sinful people, and each of them has at least hundreds of millions of bounties on their heads. Among the top characters, there are no shortage of 500 million or 600 million big pirates. However, in the face of absolute power, this group of rabble did not even have the will to fight, and they all wanted to run. Pirates are really unreliable. In the distance, thousands of meters away, Admiral Fujitora looked solemn. He raised his head to face the sky and pushed Vivi with the thumb of his left hand. Suddenly, the staff and knife in his hand were about to come out of his body. You still want to meddle? When I don't exist? Kaido laughed loudly, strode forward, and at the same time threw a right punch with a mighty punch. Admiral class, have fun with me. Kaido. Fujitora turned around and took a step forward. At the same time, he quickly grabbed the hilt of the sword with his right hand, and shouted in a deep voice, Gravity knife, tiger. Roar. As if there was a beast roar, I saw a flash of sword light, and a purple peculiar slash was shot out. This shot aimed at Kaido, who was attacking, relentlessly, and all gravity was accumulated on one sword. The sword energy swept across, turning into an extremely heavy horizontal gravity, crushing everything in front of him. Kaido groaned and took a sword head-on. His going stance was broken, and his entire body was knocked 100 meters away with a single blow. Boom boom boom. With Fujitora's sword, Kaido was forced back, and all the buildings within the range covered by the sword chi collapsed. However, at the moment of being knocked into the air, Kaido's body suddenly shook, and he resisted, and after flying 100 meters upside down, he was forcibly stabilized. Ouch, he laughed wildly. Good ability, try to kill me and see. With a low tone, he stood up straight, and his eyes radiated blood-red light, like a ghost. Down Fujitora's forehead, and even a single blow with all his strength couldn't hurt the opponent much, just knocked back. Trouble, I'm being held back, there's no way to stop the meteorite from falling. He didn't have the spare time, so he was reluctant to protect himself. Akainu is also not good, he is facing big MOM, it is difficult to be distracted. Many of the government's top combat powers have fallen into a hard fight. Damn it, I'll stop it. At this time, the old man with the face of the national character couldn't hold back, he took off his suit and started to do it. However, at this moment, the earth shook, and a touch of green suddenly appeared. Huge branches of trees sprang up like bamboo shoots after a rain, and in an instant, dozens or hundreds of huge tree roots turned into two big hands, and suddenly stretched out to the falling dark stars. Huh! In the middle of the battlefield, Chinyong raised his eyebrows and immediately sensed a breath. Is there another master, another admiral? While thinking about it, two big hands with tree roots were already in contact with Tianqing. With a loud bang, the two forces collided, and the lower Tianqing immediately stopped its falling posture. But the one above it was directly squeezed down. Suddenly, the heavy feeling doubled, and the two big dark green hands began to collapse. The sound of clicking sounded, the roots of the tree were broken, and the two broken stars were still falling. Seeing this scene, a middle-aged man wearing a nose ring froze and muttered, "It's so heavy, it didn't stop you." Without any hesitation, he raised his left hand and, like his right hand, slammed it towards the ground. Boom! With a light sound, the next moment, under the ground, countless green teeth came to life, and immediately, new vegetation was born in the entire ruins of the battlefield, as if in just a short moment, the mud surface here turned into a forest. The vegetation of this forest is intertwined, crisscrossed, and formed a large net in midair. Tianqing landed on the green net and shook violently, showing a bit of a downturn. Stop it! The old man with the face of the national character was taken aback. It's Ryokugyu. Ryokugyu, a folk master who joined the marine with Fujitora, was the winner of the last world conscription. Before that, he was a preparatory admiral. After Akainu became a marshal, he was naturally promoted to the new admiral. However, before anyone could breathe a sigh of relief, Chinyang's voice sounded again. He, well done. Is it someone who can control plants? Vine fruit, cluster fruit, or big tree fruit? Chinyang grinned, raised his right hand slightly, and then his eyes suddenly narrowed. It's already worthy of praise to be able to block it, but since you want to protect the Holy Land, then try it. As soon as the voice fell, the clouds at night were once again shattered above the kilometer altitude, and under the shroud of darkness, a sky star that was even larger than before suddenly appeared. What? The middle-aged man wearing a nose ring breathed for a while, and said incredulously, "Can this kind of move be used unlimited times?" To be able to block two of them is already the result of full power. The third one is larger than the previous one, and the speed of falling is also faster. Oops, can't stop. The man's heart trembled and his eyes were dull. Is this still human? Is it the power of God? Desperately powerful, this yin and yang master is much stronger than the average master class. Chapter 0390_Just Play With You. Desperate combat power. Ryokugyu Admiral tried his best to stop the two sky stars from falling, but in the blink of an eye, the yin and yang masters were able to create a third one. Fufufu, the dominant cadre I've never seen before, is really strong. Outside the ruins, Doflamingo, who was far away, grinned. Ryokugyu sympathetically, he turned away from the place of right and wrong. This time to attack the Holy Land. Everyone has a task, and his task is to clean the Holy Land Tenryubito. Tenryubito, there are only 19 in the Holy Land, and among these 19, they have to remove their Don Quixote family, which means, in fact, to cleanse the 18 main families. It's such a nostalgic place. For no one would have thought that I would come back in this capacity. The decadent Tenryubito should also disappear in the face of the general trend. Let's welcome the new world together. With complicated thoughts in his heart, Doflamingo acted quickly. Not to mention his actions, in the battlefield, the third dark star finally fell. It slammed heavily on the previous two stars, and in an instant, a big explosion occurred, and countless rubble was like a meteor shower, bursting open and falling in all directions. Ryokugyu collapsed and shattered in a short period of time. The earth was bombarded by 3 heavenly stars, and there was a strong vibration immediately. Dream. The earthquake, the Gorosei 5 elders were all dumbfounded. Known as an absolute defense, the most noble holy place in the world is now everywhere, and most of the city has been reduced to ruins. The destructive power caused by the 3 broken dark stars has almost wiped out the holy place. Seeing this, Qin Yang's expression was normal, but he looked at Whitebeard and said, "Go ahead, that thing is likely to be buried underground." Buried in a treasure house or secret room somewhere underground. This is only an inference, but the possibility is very high. Underground. Whitebeard took a deep breath and set aside the big Naginata sword in his hand, then took off his shirt, crossed his arms in front of him, and clenched his fists. The next moment, the muscles of his 2 arms swelled violently, and the upper meridians were like snake veins. Coiled and profound. Earthquake. A loud roar, Whitebeard slammed 2 punches into the space on the left and right. There was a muffled sound, as if the space was shattered, and a vibrating force spread like a cobweb, and everyone could see the fine cracks covering the sky, as if the world was shattered by a single blow. Kaka. The sound of shattering spread, and after 3 or 5 seconds, the power of vibration suddenly erupted. Boom boom boom. The earth tremor seemed to be the birth of an earthquake of magnitude 8. The entire holy city was shaking violently. On the streets, it seemed that the houses collapsed, and bottomless cracks were born one by one. With one blow, the entire Holy Land was like a porcelain plate, which was torn apart. What? Old man with crutches said dumbly, "Impossible. How can you still have such power?" Whitebeard could not be concealed from the intelligence agencies of the world government. Especially a year ago, the extreme deterioration of his body made the government people very happy. According to predictions, Whitebeard's body would not last 3 to 5 years at most, and he would be completely paralyzed. But now it seems that there is nothing wrong with Whitebeard. Compared to the peak period, he is not weak at all. Gulala, I'm not dead yet. Gorosei 5 elders, you have to go ahead of me. Whitebeard chuckled twice, raised his foot, and stomped down abruptly. Boom. Another vibrational force spread out, and this force was condensed into one, and the direction was straight ahead. I saw a deep ravine split open in the earth, spreading rapidly, and appearing at the feet of the Gorosei 5 elders in an instant. Seeing this, the 4 old men turned pale in unison, and then each dodged away. Humph, this is the end. what else is there to say? I haven't done it for many years, and I didn't expect to kill again, but you. Whitebeard, you don't have many of your subordinates here, do you really think you can beat the four of us alone? It doesn't matter how you recover your body, it doesn't matter anymore. Today, you will be completely wiped out. The name Whitebeard has been resounding in the world for 20 or 30 years, and it's time to make it disappear. Several old men took off the suits that were in the way, revealing their strong bodies. It was a sturdy body covered in scars, no doubt a battle-hardened physique. Gorosei, 5 elders or Gorosei, 5 elders is because these 5 people represent the highest combat power of the world government. Of course, that was when they were young, but even in their old age, they still had great power. I saw the old man with the face of the Chinese character stroke his blonde hair, wipe the big back of his head, and tie a small ponytail at the back of his head. The next moment, he roared loudly, a huge armament hockey, Chanrao condensed out of the body like a substantial armor. Whitebeard, quote. In the anger, the old man with the face of the national character stretched out his palm, and in an instant, Hockey's strength was like a long sword, and it suddenly cut off from the air. Ji la la la, let the horses come. I am Whitebeard, let's get on the 4 together. Whitebeard laughed heartily, holding a large naginata sword, and slammed up to meet him. At the same time, Qin withdrew his gaze, quickly formed a seal in his hand, and then slammed his palm on the ground. Wood done wood clone technique. The sound of clicking sounded, and I saw that under the big tree behind me, a clone appeared constantly, and there were 30 or 50 in a blink of an eye. Go and have a look. Qin gave the order calmly. But as soon as his voice fell, a golden light flashed, and Kizaru had already intercepted it. Before he could speak, another figure appeared. It was the commander-in-chief of the entire army. Hisko's face was pale, but it also blocked Qin way. Not only these 2 people, but in the distance, a man with a nose ring stepped forward. The man was tall and slender. He walked, he said, I will trap him in the forest cage, and then find an opportunity to join forces to subdue him. As he said that, he stretched his arms out, and suddenly, countless vines appeared under his feet, like a group of swimming snakes, rushing towards them one after another. On both sides of Qin, the trees seemed to have spirituality. The branches were like human hands, intertwined, forming a big net, trapping him. Seeing this, Kizaru grabbed his right hand, the golden light flickered, and a sword of photons suddenly condensed. Sisko also moved quickly, holding 3 poison needles in his right palm, ready to launch them at any time. He. Seeing these 3 team up, Qin couldn't help but ask Isho, can this kind of thing stop me? Is this also worthy of being called a forest cage? As he spoke, his hands were sealed, and the chakra in his body surged wildly. Afterwards, he slapped his palm and whispered in his mouth, this is worthy of being called a prisoner. Wood done, the tree world is coming. Boom boom boom. Chakra turned into the source of life and poured into the ground. On the surrounding ruins, ancient trees grew rapidly, and together with the roots of the trees, they seemed to be living giant snakes, swimming wildly. One of them, holding Qin, quickly broke the cage and ascended into the sky. Below, the 3 of Kizaru couldn't help but turn pale with astonishment. This is what? This guy, not only repulsion, gravitation, but also the creation of meteorites, even the forest can be instantaneous. It's a monster. This kind of person is just a master. In just a few words, the collapsed earth, the holy city in ruins, has turned into a forest. Qin was above the huge tree root, looked down at the 3 people below, and sneered, where is this? There is nothing to be surprised about. I am the ruler of yin and yang, and I master the power of yin and yang and the 5 elements, whether it is forest or meteorite. It's just a little trick, just have fun with you. Chapter-381-400 mode. This is the 3rd update of yesterday. I was too tired last night, so I went to lie down for a while, and ended up falling asleep until 3:40 the next day. Sweat, however, don't worry, I'll add it later. Damn monster. Looking at the spot standing on the root of a sturdy tree, Cisco couldn't help but curse loudly. He cautiously observed the trees growing around him, and said at the same time, "Be careful, I'm afraid he can control this forest at will." As soon as the voice fell, his right hand suddenly swung, and with a swoosh, 3 poisonous needles flew out at super high speed. Boring temptation, let's go together with the 3 of you. Chinyong Vivi turned his head to the side and avoided 2 of the poison needles. As for the third one, he directly squeezed it with 2 fingers, flicked his fingers, and shot it back. Since you don't dare to come, then I'm welcome. When Chinyong thought about it, the whole forest seemed to come alive. Thick roots were surging in the ground. Suddenly, a spurt shot out, breaking through the ground and hitting the 3 of them. 3 against 1 chance. Admiral Ryokugyu slammed a punch and smashed the attacking tree claws by himself. No matter how strong he is, there is a limit to his strength. Consume him first, what I mean, can you understand? After he finished speaking, he suddenly retreated. And with his movements, where he was standing, the ground cracked open, and a group of thick tree roots swarmed like a swarm of snakes. Seeing this, Cisco's face froze, and he didn't even think about speeding up to avoid it. One had been prepared for a long time, and the other had rushed to escape. Only Kizaru, when he realized it, had already been entangled. The roots of the tree, as thick as a human waist, were tightly wrapped around like a python strangling its prey. An opponent with a headache. Kizaru's body radiated golden light, and the words immediately dissipated into a photon fluid. The next moment, he appeared in front of Chinyong. If you can bounce everything, how can you kill and subdue you? Photons gathered and gradually condensed into the appearance of Kizaru. His hands were raised high, holding the sword of photons, and he slashed down. Almighty push. Chinyong didn't even have the intention of raising his hand, but his eyes narrowed, and in an instant, a spherical protective barrier was formed outside his body. Everything outside the enchantment is suffering from a powerful force of repulsion. That's it. Kizaru's complexion changed slightly, and he only felt that his body was bounced off by this force. In a short period of time, the whole person was directly beaten into a piece of photons, and with a puff, it disappeared. At this moment, 3 poisonous needles were projected from 3 completely different directions. Armament hockey is attached to this poisonous needle, making it extremely hard, instantly piercing the obstacles of forest trees, and aiming at Chinyong directly from an unreachable position. Hit. Above a big tree in the distance, Hisko's eyes flashed, but the next second, his complexion changed drastically. I saw 3 poisonous needles hovering outside Chinyang's body, with a distance of 3 centimeters. It seemed that this distance was insurmountable, like a moat. Impossible. After fighting with him just now, I can infer that his repulsion and gravity cannot be used at the same time, and every time he uses and switches, there is a blank time of more than 3 seconds. Why? He. Chinyong chuckled constantly, penetrating a distance of 100 meters, penetrating the complex terrain, and saw Hisko, the accelerator fruit ability. To be able to discover Rinnegan's weakness is indeed a battle-hardened person. However, would I not take precautions against such an obvious weakness? You are too arrogant. Hearing this, Hefko, who was hiding in the distance, was shocked. Not afraid of a strong opponent, no matter how strong a person is, he will also have weaknesses, but with overwhelming strength and such caution, this kind of enemy is too troublesome. He couldn't see how Chinyong prevented him from this sneak attack for the time being, but he thought that his sneak attack method wouldn't work anymore. What should I do next? Cisco thought frantically in his heart. What I'm good at is close combat, but the opponent has repulsion. I can't get close. Use the ability to sneak attack from a distance. The effect is not good. Use that one trick. No. Once it works, it's okay to say. If it doesn't work, I'm done. His thoughts turned around, thinking about countermeasures. Chinyong, however, was not interested in waiting for him to think clearly. As soon as he thought about it, the whole forest moved. Every tree here is his eyes, and weapons, and all attacks and defenses here are controlled by the caster. However, when the tree world came, Ryokugyu's ability to manipulate plants was affecting it, and the two sides had a stalemate. Yasukani no Magatama. At this moment, a golden light was projected into the air. Kizaru crossed his hands in front of his chest, and the next moment, his whole body turned into a shining cross star, like a rain of light bullets, pouring down towards Chin-young. Light sword. After the rain of bullets, a huge photon golden sword slowly condensed out above Kizaru's head. This sword was very huge, and after locking Chin-yang's position, it suddenly shot down. Whoosh! A sword flew over, and then caused a huge explosion. Boom! The flames engulfed half the forest, the firelight illuminated the night sky, and the power of the Sword of Light far surpassed that of Yasukani no Magatama. Be careful, his breath is gone. Ryokugyu shouted in a deep voice, his eyes fixed on the flames ahead. It really disappeared. Kizaru frowned. It didn't escape, the attack hit the spot, but what happened? Sisko, who was hiding in the dark in the distance, also felt a trace of disobedience. To say that one blow was eliminated, how could it be possible? If the Dominion level is so easy to deal with, then the government should be secretly having fun. Besides, this Yin-Yang Lord is much stronger than the average Dominion level. The burning flames suddenly stopped for a moment, and then suddenly bounced to the sides. With a bang, the flames were divided, and a man with white hair was walking out. What? Kizaru was stunned. I'm tired of seeing them. I don't even dare to get close to each of them. I only dare to hide in the distance and throw a dart. Just like you, are you also Admiral? Chin-yang's expression was indifferent, and his appearance had undergone great changes. The hair grew a little longer and became white, the clothes on his body also changed, and there were 9 black balls floating behind him. 3.5. These small balls are extremely mysterious, as if they contain everything, the origin of the universe. You are the masters of yin and yang. Ryokugyu said blankly. What's the situation? Your eyes. Kizaru's sharp eyes sensed something was wrong. On this person's forehead, an eye appeared. Unlike the previous pair of strange eyes, this eye was extremely blood red, with 3 rings, and on top of each ring, there were 3 small hooks. Chin-yang casually walked towards the 3 of them, and at the same time said calmly, I just played with you, but now I'm tired of watching it. I said at the beginning, my name is Ludaoban, this is my Ludao mode, use yours if I can understand it, my rank has risen. Quote. Having said that, Chin-yang raised his hand and pointed. Immediately, one of the 9 black balls behind it flew out quickly. Go, beg for jade. Chapter 0392, Yin and Yang 5 Elements, Seeking Daoyu. Go, beg for jade. As soon as Chin-yang pointed it out, a small black ball behind him flew out quickly. Its speed is not very fast. For an Admiral-level expert, it can be said to be a slightly slow attack. However, this simple attack made Kizaru's complexion slightly change. What is this? He was shocked. If it wasn't visible to the naked eye, it was just observation hockey, and he couldn't perceive the existence of this thing at all, as if it was a product of a higher dimension, and it was difficult to peep. The Chu Dao Jade, which came slowly, had an absolutely dark color. When advancing in this direction, the first thing he encountered was Sisko, who was hiding behind a tree. What does this guy want to do? Sisko Vivi narrowed his eyes and said to himself, do you want to hit me with this slow attack? However, in the next second, the black ball suddenly accelerated, almost instantly, across a distance of 20, 30, 15 meters, and appeared beside him. What? Hisko looked shocked and looked at his Shang in disbelief. The speed of the sudden explosion of this black ball was faster than his eyesight. You must know that he is an accelerator fruit ability. An accelerator has extraordinary eyesight, and has even been accustomed to the speed of sound, but this time, he did not see the movement of this black ball clearly. Instinctively, Sisko wanted to dodge, and in an instant, he entered a state of supersonic movement. I have to say that his reaction was very quick, but he still couldn't avoid it completely. This small jade for the Taoist, slightly brushed with his left hand. Puff. Disappeared. For a moment, Sisko couldn't see what happened, but the touch from his body made him realize that the palm of his left hand, the moment he was touched by Chu Daoyu, vanished into nothingness. Disappeared cleanly, completely annihilated from the world. Ah! Sisko screamed, and the whole person broke away from the acceleration state, his eyes widened and his face twisted. VV's eyes fell, and what he saw was the disappearing palm, the palm of his left hand, really disappeared. What kind of ability is this? He quickly backed away, looking at the Lord of Yin and Yang, and yelled frantically. You were able to escape fatal injuries. Yes, your speed is indeed impressive. Qin Yang walked towards the other party and said calmly, however, it's pointless, it's just delaying a little bit of time that doesn't matter. During the speech, his right hand stretched out, and suddenly a jade for the Tao flew out from behind. The black ball immediately changed its shape and turned into a tin cane in the blink of an eye, which was held in Qin Yang's hand. Yin. Seeing this scene, Admiral Ryokugyu shrunk. The speed is very fast, and it can change its shape. It looks like it is controlled by the mind. The most important thing is the human body can be wiped out by touching it. What monster ability! Looking at the tragic state of Sisko, he had no doubt that if he was hit head-on by the black ball, the human body would be wiped off in an instant. No, you can't sit still. As soon as he gritted his teeth, Ryokugyu slammed his palm into the ground and shouted, Wooden Dragon. Ka ka ka. The ground was surging, and a wooden dragon suddenly emerged from the ground and launched an attack from Qin Yang's back. Mulong opened his huge mouth to swallow Qin Yang and seal it completely. Kizaru. Ryokugyu shouted, hands on. Kizaru immediately opened his arms, and in an instant, his whole body emitted a dazzling golden light, and the golden light illuminated half of the sky. Laser light. Whoosh whoosh. In front of Kizaru, a huge amount of photons condensed to form a series of laser rays, which were shot out in unison. Seeing this, Sisko didn't care about the trauma, and in the midst of clenching his teeth, an invisible enchantment quietly opened. Accelerate space. Top speed. The invisible barrier, with a radius of 100 meters, enveloped Qin Yang. At the moment when the barrier appeared, whether it was Kizaru's attack or Ryokugyu's wooden dragon, everything was accelerated, not just twice as simple, but 10 times faster. In the face of this joint effort, Qin Yang's expression remained the same. He was the only one who was not accelerated. In his opinion, it was the speed of the entire world that accelerated, and he was the only one who remained in a normal state. Nice cooperation, unfortunately, useless. Before he finished speaking, behind Qin Yang, a jade for the Tao flew out, instantly turning into an arc-shaped shield, blocking the wooden dragon. At the same time, another Taoist jade appeared in front of Qin Yang and was directly elongated into a flat shape. All the lasers came, and the moment they touched the Daoyu jade, they immediately returned to nothingness, as if they had never appeared. This series of coordinated attacks ended in failure. Kizaru 3, Chi-Chi fell into a sluggishness. What the hell is this? Can't you understand? Holding a tin cane, Qin Yang stepped forward and slowly approached the three of them. This is the most fundamental manifestation of the power of yin and yang and the 5 elements. Tao Jade contains the power of all things, whether it is the human body, trees, lasers, everything is included. Inside, your attack can't even break through my outer defenses. Because it contains the fundamental power of all things, it is difficult for all attack methods to escape the fate of annihilation. Of course, in fact, there are still weaknesses. However, this weakness, for Kizaru and others, is meaningless even if they know it. This is the master of yin and yang. Ryokugyu's face was extremely heavy. At this moment, he finally understood why the other party was called the Lord of Yin and Yang. Yin and Yang 5, 607 elements, mutually generate and restrain each other. However, judging from the fact that you have been approaching us, this attack has a limited range. Ryokugyu snorted coldly and said, quickly open the distance. At least 100 meters. While shouting, he quickly retreated. All of them are experienced people, and it's easy to see some details. It's amazing. Qinyang chuckled. But, do you think I was just chatting with you? This, Ryokugyu looked behind Qinyang subconsciously. 3 of the 9 seeking jades floating behind it at the moment. Oops. Only had time to spit out half a word, and Ryokugyu was shocked to find that a Taoist jade had appeared in front of his shang, and the distance was less than 1 centimeter. Boom. The black sphere slowly crushed his chest, and his clothes disappeared first, followed by skin, blood, and bones. Daoyu passed through his bore, leaving a dark hole. Ah! Ryokugyu's eyes widened, his consciousness was confused for a while, he opened his mouth and fell down. With a bang, he fell to the ground on his back and never got up again. The last thought before consciousness fell into chaos was the trick. The other party deliberately explained his own abilities, which distracted him, and then it was a one-hit kill. Falling together, there are Kizaru and Cisco. Chapter 0393_reinforcement from Endless Hell. Bang bang bang. Ryokugyu, Kizaru, Chasing Ri, the 3 Admiral-level masters, fell one by one in front of Qinyang. Victory or defeat is in an instant, and the result appears in an instant. In front of the Chudao Jade containing the power of Yin and Yang and the 5 elements, the trio's carelessness immediately suffered a devastating blow. After completing the mission of annihilating the enemy, the jades slowly flew back to Qinyang's back. They still looked ordinary, just black balls. Huh. Suddenly, Qinyang raised his eyebrows, and he looked at Kizaru's corpse. I saw the corpse that fell to the ground, exuding golden light and shining incomparably. Suddenly at a certain moment, with a puff, it scattered into countless photons and disappeared in an instant. Did the fluidization escape at the last moment? Qinyang chuckled. As expected of Logia, he left behind a deceptive clone to defend himself. Kizaru's corpse, which was only formed by the condensed photons of glint fruit, was a pure natural element, and it shattered and disappeared immediately after eating a shot of the jade. As for Kizaru himself, he should have fled at some point earlier, leaving this deceptive clone to die. Qinyang had to praise his wit, but he didn't bother to chase. If Kizaru wanted to run, with his ability to move at the speed of light, it would be quite troublesome to chase and kill him. As for the other 2, Qinyang glanced at the other 2 corpses, Admiral Ryokugyu and the army commander Cisco. They were dead and could no longer die. Shaking his head, Qinyang ignored it. He stepped on the rubble and walked in the direction of Gorosei, 5 elders. There, Whitebeard and the 4 old men are fighting fiercely. At the same time, thousands of meters away from the battlefield, behind a rock, a golden light flashed, and Kizaru's figure quickly condensed out. He was panting and sweating coldly, obviously frightened by the previous scene. It's a monster. That kind of ability can kill even my fluid. He gritted his teeth and sighed inwardly. Ryokugyu and the others are definitely dead. If it wasn't for my extra attention at the last minute, I'm afraid the result would be the same. He has dealt with fantasy a lot, so he is always on guard, so he can escape at the last moment. What should we do now? Kizaru was sitting on the ground with his back against the rock, with a hint of confusion in his expression. It's just a yin and yang ruler. He's already so strong, let alone the other masters of the dream who didn't show up. I'm afraid that he will take out the national treasure, and save him too. No world government. In addition to fantasy, there are Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom. This kind of lineup can destroy the world government will definitely not be able to stop it, and its demise is only a matter of time. That being the case, Kizaru has no interest in working for the Gorosei 5 elders either. Just as he was thinking, footsteps suddenly sounded in front of him. Kizaru's face changed slightly, subconsciously thinking that Qin Yang was chasing after him, but when he looked intently, he couldn't help but be startled. "It's you. Iya, my former colleague, actually fled. Kuzan, what are you doing?" Kizaru didn't want to get up. He sat on the ground and spoke in a deep voice. "I'm here to witness the new world." Kuzan was carrying a travel bag. As he spoke, he took off his sunglasses and smiled. "Aren't we together?" "New world." Kizaru croaked. "I'm going back now. I'm afraid I'll be beaten to death." He didn't dare to go. If Liu Daobin was still staring at him, wouldn't that be courting death? He didn't feel like he had a chance to escape a second time. "I didn't expect that you, the former Marine Admiral, actually participated in this operation." At the end, Kizaru couldn't help shaking his head. "The teacher knows. I'm afraid I'm very disappointed in you." "Teacher." Kuzan calmly raised his head and looked at the night sky. "I'm just pursuing my own justice. The ruler of the world is good for anyone, and what most people pursue is peace." "That's why you betrayed your position." "No, I just took a shortcut." Whitebeard and the four old men fought fiercely on the ruins of the former World Conference venue. With 1 against 4, Whitebeard would be helpless for a while. When they sensed that the breath of Ryokugyu and others had died out, the Gorosei 5 elders all stopped and went to investigate. At a glance, all of them were pale. "The 3 are all dead." In less than a quarter of an hour. 6 spots. Several people were extremely angry, looking at the 6 spots that were walking, with a strong shock. These are 3 admiral grades, and they were killed in such a short period of time. What Whitebeard can't do, this Dream Master has done it so easily. Qin Yang's attitude was casual, holding a tin cane, and slowly approached. "Gorosei 5 elders, you have nowhere to run. Surrender now, before it's too late." "Surrender?" Old man on crutches sneered. "Can you survive now if you surrender now?" "No." Qin Yang, Isho, said, "Have you ever seen the leader of the old forces survive?" "Then what nonsense are you talking about?" The old man with a Chinese character face said gloomily. "If you want this old man's life, you must come and take it yourself." "Really, I might consider giving you a decent death." Qin Yang was unsmiling and said calmly, "What do you say? I have been sitting in the highest power position in the world for decades, and when I don't want to die, I don't even have a whole corpse." "What the hell are you trying to say?" The old man in the hat snorted coldly. "What is the purpose of uniting the 3 and 4 emperors to attack the Holy Land?" "Red Stone." Qin Yang said bluntly. "The 4th Red Stone is in the hands of your government. Hand it over. In this situation, it is meaningless for you to hide it. Even the world government is about to be destroyed, and there is no point in hiding a broken stone. HMPH so it turns out, Scarlet Stone. The text of the history of the root." The old man with the mustache laughed loudly. "Unfortunately, the stone is not in our hands." Hearing this, Qin Yang was a little puzzled. Judging from his expression and tone, this guy doesn't seem to be lying, but considering the calculation of the omniscient and almighty star, the 4th stone is indeed here, and it can't go wrong. Could it be that, without even the Gorosei 5 elders, the 4th stone is here? Seeing this, Whitebeard chuckled twice and said, "Bula lala don't listen to their nonsense. Whether stone is here or not, today the world government will be overthrown and a new order will be established. Lord of Yin and Yang, you and I will join forces to deal with them. Be careful, these 4 are much stronger than you know." Qin Yang nodded, leaning on a tin cane, and said loudly, "Gorosei 5 elders, you are still resisting. What are you relying on?" "The so-called national treasure." Up to now, the national treasure has not been taken out, which makes Qin Yang curious. Hearing this, the old man with crutches showed a ferocious madness on his face. "As soon as the national treasure comes out, everyone will die. Its existence will shake the world. However, we won't use it until the end of the road, don't worry." Then, the old man on crutches shouted, "Where are the reinforcements?" As soon as the voice fell, in the space behind him, a space door opened. With a click, a door appeared in the space, and then, a burly man walked out of the door. The situation is bad. Is it so tragic? The visitor spit out a breath of poisonous gas and stared at Qin Yang. I am the director of the deep-sea prison, Magellan, with criminals from endless hell, come to support. Chapter-381-400 The comber is huge and looks like Satan, with a horn weapon on his head and a pair of black bat wings on his back. He walked out of the gate of space, first nodded at Gorosei, 5 elders, then looked at Qin Yang, and said, I am Magellan, director of the deep-sea prison, bringing criminals from endless hell to come to support. As soon as the voice fell, in the door of space behind him, men in prison uniforms and shackles came out one after another. These people looked ferocious, and each exuded a unique atmosphere. There were only 6 of them, but Qin Yang saw an acquaintance of one of them. Kakaka, nostalgic air of freedom, is this the Holy Land Mariajoy? Tisk tisk tisk, the holy place of the world government, Tenryubido's residence, has turned into this miserable appearance. It is really so pleasant. Ha ha ha, I actually saw Whitebeard. This guy's head is mine, don't rob me. A man as thin as a jackal with a long tongue sticking out a strong killing intent. Shut up, scumbags. Magellan sighed, and immediately there were billowing poisonous gas, which enveloped the 6 criminals. Don't forget, the poison in your body. As long as you protect the Holy Land from this group of people, after the matter is over, your charges will be cancelled. Release you. Kakaka, I don't believe what Marine and the government say, but I certainly believe what Magellan says. Don't let me down. Between words, Magellan threw a bunch of 427 keys. The 6 criminals got their hands and undid the sea stone shackles. Kaza, with the sound of the shackles being released and landing, someone immediately shouted excitedly, I'm back from the endless hell. 25 years. A full 25 years. Morgan, is back. In the shouting, a conqueror haki, which had been suppressed for countless years, swept away in an instant. Seeing this, Whitebeard Vivi narrowed his eyes and said to Qin Yang, this guy is a pirate from Roger's era, Captain Morgan, a fruit-reversing ability. Be careful, this guy can turn everything he touches upside down, including humans. Quote. Upside down, flip, this fruit, Qin Yang has seen on the devil fruit map. For example, when someone is touched, their own perception will be reversed. The eyes clearly saw that a stone was thrown from the left, but in fact, the stone was thrown from the right. This is a visual reversal. In addition, he can even reverse the opponent's control. He clearly wants to go to the left, but actually goes to the right. In other words, he clearly wants to dodge the opponent's attack, but his body is active. Greeted. Kakaka, I'm free. Another 6th-floor criminal laughed wildly. Whitebeard, I haven't seen you for so many years, it's a pity that you didn't die. This person is Lao, the person with the ability to laugh fruit once lost to the Golden Lion. He is a top swordsman. Whitebeard explained, he will be smiling and kill all the people in a town. In this regard, Qin Yang was noncommittal. His gaze swept across the 6 who were freed, and finally stopped on an old acquaintance. This person is the captain of the Storm Pirates, Logia Storm Fruit ability, K-Doc. 10 years ago, in the Battle of Cake Island, the character who was suppressed by the Archangel was the captain of the previous red-haired orc. Took off Seastone's shackles, Kadark turned into a fluid, like a gust of undetectable wind, reclusive in the air. The rabble. Qin Yang shook his head and said disdainfully, relying on so many prisoners, do you want to delay time? He looked, he saw the Gorosei, 5 elders retreating rapidly, leaving the field. At this time, Magellan suddenly started, and a thick venom appeared on his body, which was extremely viscous and covered his entire body. Poison cloud. Magellan opened his mouth and exhaled a poisonous gas. The thick poisonous gas was like the fog in the morning. In a short time, Qin Yang and others were enveloped. Seeing this, Whitebeard immediately closed his breath, and at the same time raised the big Naginata sword in his hand and slashed it down. Boom! The sword light flashed, and a strong wind blew up, cutting off the poisonous cloud. Qin Yang, on the other hand, was more straightforward, his eyes narrowed, and all the poisonous gas bounced off directly. A character who is not even admiral, dare to appear. 3 minutes, all of you. Qin Yang snorted coldly, stood the tin stick aside, and at the same time his hands quickly formed a seal, and the next moment he opened his mouth and spit. Fire escape, the fire is extinguished. Boom boom boom. The raging fire, spit out, turned into a wall of flames, with a wide range, covering all 7 reinforcements in one breath. Hand knife slash, destroy nothing. Known as Lao, the knife in his right palm rose and fell, and he slammed a blow, setting off a sword energy and cutting through the incoming wall of fire. Is this a Wano-kuni ninja? Spitting fire, he said in surprise. But the next second, his face froze. I saw behind the cut wall of fire, Qin Yang's figure had disappeared. Where? He stepped onto the stage and immediately saw Qin Yang's figure. It is still a high-speed knot. Qin Yang has no intention of showing mercy, and quickly completes a ninjutsu. Shanfa Lan Dongguang Fang. With a puff, Qin Yang spit out a purple laser. This laser is extremely powerful. It is an immortal level ninjutsu. It can even break the protection of the Daoyu Jade. It is easy to deal with these prisoners. Immediately, one person did not have time to escape, and was directly cut by the purple light, cut off by the middle, and died inexplicably. What? Lao fell into a sluggishness. He was a bit confused. Had he been in prison for a long time and couldn't keep up with the times outside? This guy who was killed was at a first-class level at the beginning, and he didn't even have time to dodge, and he died in a single encounter. Who are you? At this time, he realized that Qin Yang was not good. HMPH, you deserve to know too. Qin Yang responded again, and then slapped it out with a palm. A group of rabble is also worthy of blocking in front of me. Shanfa Yin Dun Lei Sect. Chi. The purple electric light flickered, and in an instant, a purple grid like a spider web spread out from Qin Yang's palm, attacking the remaining few people. Poison Dragon. At this moment, Magellan turned into a giant soldier, with 3 poisonous dragons growing from his back, roaring towards Qin Yang. However, the moment Yulong touched the power grid, he was immediately beaten to pieces. Seeing this, Whitebeard decisively punched out. With a thud, the air split open, and the vibrational force was transmitted. In an instant, a violent earthquake was triggered. Taking advantage of everyone's instability, Qin Yang, who was floating in the fall, formed a seal again, and then snorted, Suzanengu. Puff puff. A dark blue flame enveloped Qin Yang, and then a complete phantom of the martial god suddenly appeared, wrapping Qin Yang inside. Wuxian Ziyang is completely different from Uchiha Itachi. It is in a state of whole body, like a giant, holding 2 blue double swords, mighty Haki. Tamp them to death. Inside the martial god phantom, Qin Yang held a tin cane and tapped it lightly. Immediately, Wuxian raised the blade and swung it down suddenly. Boom! A sword cut off, and the earth was divided, as if a mountain was cut off by force. What monster is this? Lao was completely dumbfounded. As a man with the ability to laugh, he couldn't laugh at all. He stared blankly as the god of war slashed out a sword and slashed at him. No. Chapter 0395_Ultimate National Treasure. This guy is too strong. The reinforcements Magellan brought, 1-2 died in person. Isn't the master class only the 4 emperors' fighting power? This yin and yang master is much stronger than the archangel, much. The situation is very bad. We are facing the biggest crisis in the 800 years since the establishment of the world government. A big crisis of life and death. Gorosei, 5 elders who hid in the distance, with extremely heavy faces, looked at each other and fell into silence. The end, the old man with a national character face said in a low voice, use that, only that thing can save the current situation. Most of the government's fighting power was restrained by Kaido, Big Mom and others, and there were very few cards that Gorosei, 5 elders could play. Of course, it is not without chance. Now there are 148 kings gathered in the Holy Land. Except for Doflamingo, there are 147. Among these people, there are many masters. If they can maintain the government and join the battle, they can turn the situation around. It is a pity that kings are people who cherish their lives. Who would risk their lives to help the world government at such a time? I have to say that the timing of dream intervention is too good. If they are given a few more days, the Gorosei 5 elders are confident that they can persuade a group of countries to form a crusade alliance. However, it's too late to say anything now. The situation is already so bad, it's time to fight to the death. Is it a national treasure? The old man with crutches flickered with a hint of fear. Using that thing, we could all be ruined. Damn it, if there is an Operation Fruit. The old man with a mustache said through gritted teeth. If there is an Operation Fruit, none of this is a problem. Don't say it, I'll start it. You stop Whitebeard and Lou Daoben. If I die when I start it, I can only blame my bad luck. The old man with the national character face took a deep breath and spoke calmly. After speaking, he took a deep look at Qin Yang, then turned and left. Seeing this, the hearts of the remaining 3 Gorosei 5 elders were heavy. In the past, it is not useless to use it, but every startup is a disaster, basically a lose-lose situation. The last time it was activated was a few years ago to deal with the Revolutionary Army. An elite unit of the Revolutionary Army, which was in full swing, can be said to be the mainstay of the opponent. Such a unit was destroyed in a short period of time. However, behind this huge force, the loss of the world government is also heavy. Hope it doesn't happen. The old man on crutches let out a sigh of relief, then walked over. I'm going to stop Whitebeard, delaying the time, at least 10 minutes. At the same time, Qin Yang discovered the actions of Gorosei 5 elders, but he ignored them for the time being, and annihilated several pirates from the endless hell. Susano slashed with one sword and killed another person. In just over a minute, out of the 6 prisoners, there were only 3 remaining, namely the reversed fruit ability, Captain Morgan, the laughing fruit ability, Great Swordsman Lao, and the storm fruit ability, Kadok. W. Damn it, why is this monster so strong? Even my attacks can't break the opponent's defense. Gee. Lao had a hellish look on his face and wondered if he had gone wrong. In Roger's time, he was not a weak person. Although he lost to the Golden Lion, he could fight back and forth with the opponent, but today, facing a tall Valkyrie Phantom, he could do nothing. And he had never heard of such an ability. Captain Morgan in the distance was even more livid, shouting towards the sky, Kadok, why didn't you do it? I'm not interested in dying. Above the sky, a voice floated down, but I couldn't make out where it came from. He. Qin Yang was in the interior of Susanengu, holding a tin stick, like a master, looking down at the 2. Kneel down now, I can spare you all to die. Hearing this, Lao Ke cursed in his heart, damn Marine. You said that the enemy is only one of the 4 emperors, damn it, Whitebeard doesn't matter, what the hell is this guy? He had the intention to retreat, but it was impossible for him to kneel. Surrender now, Magellan's poison will explode in his body, and he will die immediately, so he can only bite the bullet. Thinking of this, he showed an ugly smile infection. Seeing this smile, Qin Yang Bibi was startled, his face uncontrollable, and he also showed a stiff smile. Synchro. Seeing this, Lao immediately snorted, and in an instant, a connection was established between him and Qin Yang. This is one of the abilities of the laughter fruit. By infecting the target person with a smile, they establish a coherent relationship with the other person. Under this kind of synchronization, he will predict all the actions of the target at the same time, which is a detection ability much faster than observation hockey. However, before Lao could be happy, the next moment, this synchronicity was directly broken. What? His expression changed slightly. What's going on? Qin Yang's stiff smile eased, and he said calmly, boring, ants also want to be in harmony with lions. Between the words, he quickly formed a seal, and in an instant, a small black ball appeared between his palms. This black ball, like a cosmic black hole, pulls everything. Planetary devastation. Qinyang whispered softly, and the black ball suddenly flew high into the sky. Immediately afterwards, a huge gravitational force suddenly enveloped the main battlefield. The earth shook, and pieces of gravel were forcibly absorbed and covered around the black ball. In just a short while, the star floating in the sky became bigger and bigger, and its gravitational force became stronger and stronger. Lau and Morgan were stunned. They found that they were out of control and were attracted to the sky. This guy wants to seal us. No. At this moment, even the fluidized Kadark felt the force of suction. Even if he is fluidized and turned into a natural breeze, he cannot escape this powerful gravitational pull. Damn, damn. In the scolding, his fluid was slowly led to the celestial body, and it was difficult to escape. While Qinyang was cleaning up the rabble, somewhere in a holy place called Mariajoy. In a dark space, the old man with the national character was walking in a dark corridor. On the walls on both sides of the corridor, there is a faint firelight, and the firelight will automatically light up whenever you pass by. He kept walking, towards the depths of darkness. After passing through one door after another, I finally came to a metal door full of technology. I didn't expect to start you again so soon. He murmured in his mouth, gritted his teeth, and reached out and pressed the switch. Ultimate national treasure, that has been in the hands of the world government since ancient times. Its existence can subvert the world, and there are only a handful of people who know its existence. Even Tenryubito, who knows what it is, no longer exists, only the Gorosei, 5 elders know. However, at this moment, a laughter came out. Furfur, it's really surprising. Although I have always known the existence of national treasures, I never thought that the national treasures are such things. If this news is known to the outside world, it will be subversive. In the darkness, a figure walked out slowly, with a strong look of surprise on his face. And when he heard this, the old man with the national character face suddenly turned around, stared intently, and spoke word by word. Impossible, how did you get in, Doflamingo? Chapter 0396 King of Tenryubito. In the dark space, the firelights on both sides of the corridor illuminated the intruders. The old man with the face of the Chinese character looked at Doflamingo, who suddenly appeared, and there was a deep shock in his face. This is the top secret of the world government. No one knows except the Gorosei, 5 elders. How did Doflamingo find it? No, compared to this, how did you get in here? He stared at Doflamingo. His tone was solemn. Your chip has already been removed. If you want to enter here, it is impossible. Every Tenryubito's body will be implanted with a special chip, which is the symbol of Tenryubito, and also has many other functions. For example, to enter this place, a chip is required. Furfur, do you think I've done nothing in the 9 years when the dream disappeared? Doflamingo laughed twice, mockingly. Or, do you think your side is an absolute monolith? Hearing this, the old man's face changed, and he blurted out, Traitor, traitor, who is it? Can only think about it like this, otherwise Doflamingo would not be able to find it, let alone enter it. Who knows, Furofura, you can try to check one by one, of course, provided you can live to this day. Mikhail. Mikhail, the real name of the old man with the national character face. Even my name, the old man with a Chinese character face, looked gloomy. I'm careless. No matter how terrifying the dream is, it's only in terms of destructive power. You are a real deadly person. The Gorosei, 5 elders, surname is also a secret, and Doflamingo's ability to name his surname has touched some kind of bottom line. Thinking of this, Mikhail suddenly laughed. Ha ha ha, but it doesn't matter, it will start right away. If bad luck, both of us have to die here. Ha ha ha, pray. Furfur, it must be you who died. Doflamingo also burst into laughter. do you think I'm going to come into a place like this with you without any preparation? What do you want to do? Mikhail's face changed slightly, and he snorted coldly. It's useless, in front of the ultimate power, everything you do is in vain. During the conversation between the two, behind the mechanical gate, the thick cold air gradually dissipated. The next moment, the sound of caw-caw sounded, and the thick layer of ice was gradually shattering. The holy land of Mariajoy, a huge, round celestial body is slowly floating. It defied gravity and hovered quietly in the night sky like an artificial moon. No. On the surface of the artificial moon, Lao was half buried, struggling frantically, trying to escape the seal of the celestial body. I admit defeat. I admit defeat. Let me go, I just want to be free. It's late. You. Qinyang was unmoved, his palms suddenly embraced, and with a snap, the next moment, the mud blocks from the surface were continuously sucked up into the air, completely sealing Lao and Morgan. An instant, the world became quiet, and only the round man-made moon was left hovering above the holy ground. Monster. The old man with crutches looked ugly. Ji la la la, you're so distracted that you look down on me like that. Whitebeard laughed loudly, waving the big Naginata sword in his hand, and slashed it abruptly. Seeing this, the old man with the crutches immediately threw out the crutches to resist. Under armament hockey's coverage, the crutches had a hardness comparable to that of a diamond. Boom! With a muffled sound, the old man on crutches was instantly injured by the force of the shock, his face turned pale, and he flew upside down, directly hitting the feet of the other two Gorosei, 5 elders. Ahem, are you okay? He vomited blood again and again. The old man with crutches looked like paper, and his breath was weak. Whitebeards at their peak, they are old, and their stamina are far from equal, and they are not even comparable to the average admiral class. It seems that you have reached your limit. You are already proud enough, but you have pestered me for so long. Whitebeard withdrew the knife, squinted his eyes and said, and at the same time as the words fell, his right fist suddenly bombarded. Above this punch, there is a circle of white power, which is the compressed form of the power of vibration. Once you fight against this punch, you will be attacked by a shock comparable to an earthquake, and the body of an ordinary person will collapse in an instant. Isn't it okay? The old man with the mustache roared. However, at this moment, there was a slight tremor under the earth where everyone stood. The next moment, boom! A figure flew out suddenly, and at the moment of appearance, this person intercepted Whitebeard's punch. Everything happens in a flash. After this person appeared, he punched him in the head, facing Whitebeard's blow, and shot out brazenly. Boom! It was an invincible shock force, and under this blow, it was abruptly broken up, and the shock released by the opponent actually broke through Whitebeard's shock. What? Whitebeard was taken aback, only to think that the other party had an incomparably powerful force, a GARP-like fighting technique powerhouse. He could see the target clearly. The figure suddenly disappeared, and the next second, it appeared in front of Whitebeard. This time, Whitebeard saw it clearly. This man is a man, about 40 years old, and his eyes are dead, or indifferent, so cold that he doesn't have the slightest human emotion. Who are you? Whitebeard said in surprise, while covering his body with hockey, ready to defend against the opponent's attack. In this regard, the man did not respond, and could not even hear what Whitebeard said. He punched him, directly hitting Whitebeard's belly. Boom! With a dull loud noise, Whitebeard was knocked back dozens of meters with a single blow, and 127 feet's face became even more red. It's so strong. It broke my hockey. He was very shocked. For people who can do such a thing, except for the masters of the dream, only Kaido can do it. But Kaido is famous, and the person in front of him has never even seen him before, and he looks like a beggar. In the distance, Qinyang couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Huh, strange character. He whispered to himself, frowning slightly. In the perception, the other party has no breath, like a dead person. Suddenly, Qin Yang glanced at the ground that the man had broken open before, and immediately stretched out his hand. A powerful impulse was transmitted. Universal pull. Boom boom boom. The gravel tumbled, and then a figure flew out of the stone mound, and it was Doflamingo. It's just that Doflamingo at the moment, covered in blood, is extremely miserable. What's going on? Qin Yang asked. Ahem, be careful, she's a national treasure. Doflamingo covered his mouth, his breath was disordered. I was seriously injured in one blow. Who is he? The national treasure is a human being. Qin Yang said in surprise. It's not human. It's mindless. It's a killing machine. Doflamingo gasped violently, just finished speaking, and shook his head again. It is a character from a long, long time ago, the beneficiary of the legendary, eternal life surgery. The King of Tenryubito. Chapter 0397_Phantom comes. The third update a little late. Sorry, there was a small mistake in the last chapter. It was it, not her. It was a man, because he had no mind, so he used it. Just a typo. Close black lens bracket. It is the beneficiary of surgery for immortality. Once the King of Tenryubito. Doflamingo quickly explained while gasping. He roughly explained everything that happened in the dark corridor. After it broke the ice seal, it directly attacked me. The Gorosei 5 elders were attacked. This thing is indistinguishable from me. It has no reason or mind, and only knows how to kill one. This, Qin Yang couldn't help raising his eyebrows. This so-called King of Tenryubito is a national treasure known to subvert the world, a slaughtering weapon. Isn't he an immortal? For an immortal. Doflamingo sneered, but soon coughed in pain. Maybe it was like this at first, but after living too long, human consciousness can't take it. It's gone crazy. It was 800 years ago. People. The King of Tenryubito 800 years ago, of course, was not called Tenryubito back then. It was it who led the G20, overturned the ancient country, and established the world government. Doflamingo learned through Mikhail. Unfortunately, Mikhail died, not by him, but by that killing weapon. The slaughtering weapon, which is indistinguishable between the enemy and the enemy, the moment it was activated, was to eliminate all threatening objects. Now it's on Whitebeard. Qin Yang stared at him from a distance and said softly, it can actually suppress Whitebeard head-on. This thing's physique is really stronger than Kaido. Kaido is a man-demon family and is born with unique advantages, but what is the situation with this thing? No matter how powerful it was, after all, 800 years have passed. Immortality surgery is only to keep people young forever, and it cannot strengthen others. The purpose of the Gorosei 5 elders trying to find the fruit of the operation is to control it. Qin Yang was a little puzzled. Their purpose is to master this killing machine. Doflamingo snorted and spat out blood. The fruit of surgery has roughly 5 abilities. First, in the surgical space, all the substances in the space are cut, separated, and reorganized. The separated person will not die, will not suffer, and will not bleed. Second, control and command all heavy objects in the space. Third, personality transplantation. Fourth, teleportation. Fifth, immortality surgery. I am afraid their purpose is to carry out personality transplantation. Remove the empty personality in this killing weapon, convert your own personality into it, and manipulate it to gain ultimate power. Of course, this is just Doflamingo's guess, but Qin Yang also thinks it makes sense and can stand the inference. The combat power of this weapon is indeed very strong. It can easily suppress Whitebeard from the front, and it looks like it has endless physical strength and is not afraid of death. 7. If a manipulator personality is added to this weapon, it is indeed very valuable to the world government. No wonder that immortality surgery is so famous. I think someone must have tried it before and it was successful. Qin Yang couldn't help issue. Unfortunately, immortality surgery has given the body eternal youth, but the soul cannot resist the passage of time, and will eventually perish, leaving behind a mindless killing weapon. At this time, Doflamingo said again, If you want to stop it, I'm afraid it has to be completely destroyed, but his body has undergone immortality surgery, and it is almost difficult to kill and destroy. It doesn't matter. It's just a machine. That's what I've been waiting for. Chin-Yong chuckled lightly and dispersed the outside Susano, and then made a seal on his hands, and drank softly in his mouth. Summon, illusory world is coming. In an instant, there was a wave of nothingness in the space. Like a mirage, above the night sky of the Holy Land, a phantom of another world appeared. It is a peaceful and beautiful world, with birds singing and flowers fragrant, and the vast expanse. This virtual shadow of the world has a very wide range, stretching over the sky, hundreds of kilometers. At this moment, everyone can see this strange scene, and even more can see the members of the dream team who walked out of the strange scene over there. This is... Doflamingo's eyes widened with a shocked look on his face. In the shadow of the other world, you can see a sea dragon hovering in the sky, a lich king riding a bone dragon, and a nine-tailed fox with 9 tails swaying constantly. The members who have seen, have not seen, and dream members all exist. In front of this group of people, Emperor Qin is stepping out, penetrating the shadow of the world, and descending on the Holy Land. Lord Qin Emperor. Doflamingo was shocked and immediately knelt down on one knee. Liu Daoban explained, "This is our base camp, the illusory realm. Only core members can enter it." And while he was speaking, Emperor Qin stepped on the void, with a pair of calm eyes, staring at the king of Tenryubito. Whitebeard fell into a passive state, was constantly suppressed and attacked, and there were multiple wounds on his body, not external but internal. Having a superhuman speed, a physique that is unmatched in the past and present, an absolute power that can't be compared to Kaido, and an almost undead defensive power obtained after receiving the immortality surgery. Emperor Qin sat in white clothes and quietly analyzed the strength of this weapon. There is no doubt that it has the combat power of the 4 emperors, which can directly suppress the 4 emperors in another peak period. Unfortunately, it is not even the super 4 emperors. Quote, "To win this weapon, Heilong can, Aizen can, Liu Daoban can also, not to mention Emperor Qin. I have always cared about the so-called national treasure. I thought it was a large-scale weapon like Yuan Zidan, but I didn't expect it to be a mindless killer." Emperor Qin shook his head and descended slowly. When he got his feet on the ground, the king of Tenryubito suddenly stopped his hand, turned around, and suddenly faced Chin-Young. "If the Gorosei 5 elders have completed the personality transfer surgery, you'll be worth a look. After all, there is a difference between having a mind and not having a mind." Having said that, Chin-Young looked into the distance, and the 3 Gorosei 5 elders won the far distance and did not dare to approach, as if they were afraid of being targeted by the slaughter weapon whirlpool. "What you are relying on, in my opinion, is not worth mentioning." Hearing this, the 3 old men snorted in unison. "I hope you can say that later." As soon as the voice fell, there was a bang. Tenryubito stepped on it, the ground cracked and there was a loud noise. At the same time, it quickly approached and struck Chin-Young with a blank expression. This punch seems to be able to shatter space, and any force under this punch will be shattered. Now that you've run out of cards, it's time to end. Unmoved, Emperor Qin took a step forward and also punched him. Boom! The 2 fists collided, and a monstrous flame was suddenly set off, and a shock wave visible to the naked eye swept away in an instant. Under this aftermath, the battlefield that was full of savage people rolled back in an instant, and the entire ground, centered on the 2, quickly collapsed. Doflamingo was blown away directly, and there was no ability to watch the battle at close range. The next moment, King Tenryubito's right arm shook, and then the whole person flew upside down, and was blown away thousands of meters in one breath. It was like a ball, rolling on the ground, smashing countless rocks along the way, and dragging it from the battlefield here to where Kaido and the others were. Chapter 0398-Qin Emperor shot. Bang, bang, bang. Tenryubito received a punch from Emperor Qin, and he flew upside down, rolled on the ground, rolled for hundreds of kilometers, and rolled directly to another battlefield. What? Kaido, who was in the hand, made a move, and immediately noticed the change. Who is it? That, Akainu, Fujitora, and many Marine General-level officers also stopped one by one and stared at the unexpected guest who suddenly broke in. Judging from his appearance, he was around 40 years old, and he was very handsome when he was young. His long black hair was left untreated, and he was wearing a tattered coat. After he rolled here, his movements to get up were also very strange, like a machine. What the hell? Drought Jack stared at King Tenryubito with a frown. Still. From the meeting site, the government. You go. Kaido winked. Seeing this, Jack immediately let out a long roar, kicked his hoof like a hoof, and dashed towards the other side while running. Wherever he walked, the ground was dry and cracked, as if he had experienced the scorching heat and the scorching sun, like a drought crossing the border. In the face of the attack, King Tenryubito remained motionless, facing the direction of the meeting, his muscles tense. It has no mind, only fighting instinct. The moment Emperor Chin appeared, it abandoned Whitebeard and instead attacked the most threatening person. 123. At this moment, seeing the mammoth rushing towards it, just as it was about to get close, it suddenly stretched out its left hand and grabbed the tusk with a snap. Boom! The ground vibrated, and the momentum made the place where it stepped on its feet cracked, but Jack's figure immediately stopped, and he could no longer dash forward half a point. What? Jack's pupils shrank. What a force! Who is this guy? No one answered him, and under everyone's astonished eyes, it stretched out its hand and swung it, and the huge mammoth was lifted up, and then slammed to the ground. There was another loud noise, and around Jack's ancient physique, he couldn't help but feel a heavy blow. Asshole! A roar, Jack's trunk swung like a long spear, and suddenly stabbed towards King Tenryubito. However, this attack failed to touch it, and it disappeared in an instant, far faster than Jack's perception and detection ability. The next second, it appeared in midair, then fell, and stepped on Jack's body. Boom! In an instant, the mammoth was severely injured, and Jack only felt that he had broken several bones in his body. He vomited blood, and his entire body was buried in the ground. The cracks spread out, and the earth was like a spider web, and all within 110 meters were collapsed by a single blow. So strong, who is this? One of the three disasters was killed in an instant. Our reinforcements. Secret weapon. Compared with the solemnity of the pirates, many of the Marines showed joy. However, with a swoosh, a figure suddenly appeared in the air, standing in the air. Emperor Chin. Akainu blurted out in shock, subconsciously taking a half step back. All the pirates, their faces changed dramatically, and their minds were in chaos. The name of Emperor Chin, that is the shadow that shrouded the world, the Super Four Emperors, who once destroyed the Sabayati archipelago, the original 79 areas of Sabayati, now there are only a dozen or so. Against Kaido and Big Mom, although it is difficult, they can maintain their fighting spirit. But Emperor Chin is different. This is an invincible role in the contemporary era. Just standing there, many general-level officers feel fearful. However, Chin Yang was obviously not interested in ignoring the others. He looked at King Tenryubito and said softly, "Nothing at all. This defensive power is impressive." After a pause, he added, 800 years ago, you should have been a generation without enemies. You are not a devil fruit person, let alone a super swordsman. Are you the ultimate fighting technique? This, King Tenryubito's expression remained the same, without any emotional fluctuations. He stepped on Jack's feet, and his posture was alert. When the rest of the people heard this, their expressions changed. Characters from 800 years ago. The people in that history. How is that possible? 800 years ago, this man lived 800 years. Pirates and Marines were all shocked. Only Akainu's eyes flickered, obviously thinking of something. The next moment, it moved. With a sudden jump, it rushed in front of Chin Yang and swept across with one leg. Its fighting instinct is extremely strong, its offensive moves are very decisive, and it is not afraid of death. Seeing this, Qin Yang's body flashed, avoiding its sweeping backwards, and at the same time slapped it with a palm. Suddenly, the power of thunder and lightning flashed continuously in the palm, turned into a thunder spear, and shot out suddenly. Such a close distance, the king of Tenryubito cannot dodge no matter how fast he is. With a puff, the thunder spear knocked its bow down, knocked it down from the air, and nailed it directly to the ground. However, the next moment, it roared and stood up abruptly, and the thunder spear was directly shattered in a shock. Electric light roamed all over his body, but he couldn't do anything about it. Like lightning, it has no effect on it. Sure enough, it's the ultimate fighting technique. With your own haki, even casual attacks can't hurt you. Qin Yang's face was calm, and with a dodge, he appeared beside King Tenryubito. At the same time, his left hand grabbed the opponent's head and pressed it down hard. A normal person's head is attacked, and their instinctive reaction is to dodge, but it is different. It has no idea of dodging at all. The moment it feels Qin Yang's approach, it immediately launches an attack. A hand knife, with armament wrapped around it, and the entire arm was like a big knife, slashing directly at Qin Yang's neck. Sure enough, it's a mindless machine, a pure attack. Qin Yang thought in his heart, and half of his body emitted black smoke repeatedly. Tenryubito penetrated Qin Yang's shadow, and in the next second, Qin Yang pressed the opponent's head and smashed it to the ground. Boom! There was a burst of noise, and the back of its head suffered a heavy blow, but its complexion still did not fluctuate, as if all attacks were indistinguishable to it. Ka ka ka! The power of frost swept across and began to overflow from Qin Yang's palm. This was the power that would freeze even his soul. Almost in an instant, it turned into an ice sculpture along with the earth below him. After completing the seal, Qin Yang immediately stood up and stared at the statue. This is the ice power of the Lich King. It once sealed an admiral-level master and directly froze the opponent's soul. It took Marine 7 days and 7 nights to untie it, but the person was already dead. Now used to deal with the king of Tenryubito, Qin Yang wanted to see if this thing could resist this kind of power. 3 or 5 seconds later, the first crack appeared on the surface of the statue, and then the crack spread, covering the entire statue in an instant. Immediately afterwards, a roar came out, and it broke free again. At the moment of breaking free, its coat was also shattered, revealing its strong body, and at the same time, its long roar, the sound pressure was comparable to that of Conqueror, causing countless onlookers to surge up with blood. Roar! Roar! King Tenryubito punched again. See this, Qin Yang Vivi Isho. Interesting, worthy of being the government's last resort, comparable to the ultimate national treasure of ancient weapons. Between the words, his figure fluctuated like a dream. Tenryubito's punch penetrated Qin Yang's body, but it only penetrated. What? Distance? Akainu's expression changed, and he said in horror, "This guy, the body is no longer in this space." Chapter 0399 _ The Spear of the Sky. This guy, the body is not in this space. Watching the mysterious man punch through Qin Yang, Akainu couldn't help but look sluggish. That's not a breakdown, but a simple, spatial penetration. At this moment, Qin Yang's body was like a dream, as if it had left this dimension. Tenryubito, who had no mind and only had a fighting instinct, could not help but fall into a daze, as if he could not understand the scene in front of him. He. With a chuckle, Qin Yang stretched out his right hand and punched it violently. A simple attack, a reckless man with brute force, is nothing but an upgraded version of Kaido. Boom! Punch landed on King Tenryubito's cheek, directly knocking his head crooked, and 2 of his teeth flew out. Roar! It roared, and the whole person was smashed into the air, but it quickly stabilized and entangled again. In its mind, there is no concept of tactics, and it will not stop because it cannot hit the enemy. Until the threat is eliminated, it will continue to fight, 10 days and 10 nights, without any pause. The surrounding spectators were stunned and shocked by the scene in front of them. Between Qin Yang and the king of Tenryubito, it is difficult to call it a battle, was a one-sided violence. Tenryubito's attacks were difficult to hit Qin Yang. His body seemed illusory, ignoring any physical damage. This was not the shadow body of the shadow demon, but another more advanced power. Called Illusory Realm. This is the ability opened by the 5-star illusion god. Qin Yang can sneak a part of his body into the illusion world to avoid being hurt. It can be said that even if the atomic bomb explodes, Qin Yang can stand at the center of the explosion and be safe and sound. Bang bang bang. Qin Yang knocked the king of Tenryubito into the air again, and the continuous beatings only added a few traces of trauma to the opponent, and the impact on it can be said to be minimal. Lei Gong's thunder power has no effect on it. The Lich King's frost can't be sealed. Ibaraki's black flames can't burn it to death. The tailed beast jade of the 9-tailed demon fox, the huge evil energy contained in it, cannot affect the other party in the slightest. Qin Yang tried a variety of methods, but the results were similar. Interesting, how did this guy cultivate? Repelling the opponent again, Qin Yang couldn't help raising his eyebrows. Direct physical damage, undeath, elemental damage, it is difficult to cause a substantive blow. Seal the soul, there is no soul will to speak of, it is simply a machine. Looking at the king of Tenryubito who suddenly came in again, Qin Yang's patience gradually disappeared. Forget it, let's just destroy it. I wanted to test and study it, but it's a little troublesome to capture and subdue it alive. Square root. Ordinary moves and abilities, it is difficult to kill and kill the opponent. Change to Whitebeard, Kaido's 4 emperors like this. I am afraid that there is really nothing to do with this guy, and if it consumes it, it is definitely not the one that will die. That thing has endless physical strength. Qin Yang has no doubt that it can continue to fight, even if it is 10 days and a half months, it will not decline in the slightest. Thinking of this, Qin Yang's body moved and flew into the sky. Kaido, Big Mom, if you don't want to die, run away, at least 10,000 meters away, otherwise, don't blame me for not reminding you. Qin Yang spoke softly, but the voice spread all over the place, and even Akainu and others could hear it clearly. Everyone's heart beat fiercely, and they felt a bad breath. Kaido's pupils shrank even more. He turned around and ran without even thinking about it. Damn, is this guy going to make more moves? Charlotte Linlin scolded secretly, and ran away as quickly. This mysterious man is too terrifying, to be able to survive under Emperor Qin's hands for so long. He is a monster. Meanwhile, on the other side. Indifferently, Whitebeard, you are ready to dodge too. Doflamingo, you too, run as far away as you don't want to die, the farther the better. After speaking, his figure slowly solidified, turned into a wooden sculpture, and completely disappeared. What's the situation? What are you going to do? Doflamingo gritted his teeth, dragged his heavy body, and raised his hands. One after another of invisible threads catapulted into the sky, linking a cloud, and the next moment, he jumped and ran directly to the sky. Whitebeard stared at the Gorosei, 5 elders, hesitated a little, and followed. At this moment, countless eyes converged on Qin Yang. The spear of creation is also the spear of extinction, opening up the world and reborn from chaos. Qin Yang murmured softly, his palms clasped together, and then slowly opened. Puff! A dark light shone, and under the endless darkness, a small black ball condensed between his palms. The next moment, the black ball slowly flew overhead. Its shadow elongated, turned into a spiral, and turned into a pitch-black spear. One of the ultimate forms of the power of yin and yang and the 5 elements. Qin Yang mastered the 5 elements of yin and yang at the moment when the 6 spots disappeared. This is something that Liu Daoban can't do temporarily, but Emperor Qin's illusionment, combined with yin-yang and 5 elements, can create a spear of creation and destruction. He had lost patience and was ready to wipe out the king of Tenryubito completely, not even a single particle left. Go, Heaven's Chong Spear. The whirring black spear locked onto the king of Tenryubito below, and it descended from the sky so slowly, projecting towards the opponent. It was a slow blow at first, but as it fell, its speed became faster and faster, and in an instant, it surpassed the speed of sound. This spear pierced the night sky, as if dividing the world in two. Under its lock, the king of Tenryubito stiffened, mindless, but aware of the danger. At this moment, its premonition of danger has reached its peak. This is enough power to destroy it, and it even has a desire to survive in an instant. However, this trace of desire is only a moment, and then disappears. Ah! It let out a roar that resounded through the night sky, then jumped up and attacked Qinyang. Whoosh! The spear fell, and the black on flashed through its chest in an instant. No, to be precise, it wasn't a penetration, but at the moment of contact, the invincible body of the king of Tenryubito immediately disintegrated. Just like the process of the birth of life, this is the process of the disappearance of life, and it is the original substance that is decomposed into the world. All defense forces are useless in front of this spear. In the next second, the spear fell into the earth and went deep into the interior of the Red Earth continent. The entire Holy Land seemed to have suddenly fallen into a static state. After 3 seconds, everything collapsed quietly. This area, as if the ice and snow were melting, kept disappearing. Stones, ground, buildings, vegetation, insects and beasts, everything in the world was dyed a layer of black, and then decomposed and melted. If you look down from a high altitude, you can see that the entire Holy Land, under this blow, quickly evaporated. What? Doflamingo shuddered and felt a great fear in his heart. Is this a god? Under this kind of power, what is the difference between the 4 emperors and ordinary people? Tenryubito, who had attained eternal life, was just a small ant. He was easily crushed to death without even leaving a body, and it disappeared into thin air. He. Qinyang looked at everything below calmly, and said to himself, the perfect spear of the sky, but the weapon of destruction Holy Land, it is already a thing of the past. Chapter 0400_New World. The third update. It seems that I missed it. 5 minutes late, damn it. Maria Joy off the map in a short period of time. That is a kind of decomposition, similar to the general effect of evaporation and ablation. The people who avoided them in advance lost their voices at this moment. 9 years ago, when Sabayati archipelago was sunk with one palm, it can still be understood and guessed with imagination, but today's world-destroying spear is obviously beyond the inherent cognition. It's the power of God. World government, it's over. It's over, an 800-year-old ruling class. Looking at history, the history of 100 years after the blank, before 1510, it was the world government, it was the age of Tenryubito, they ruled the whole world, but after 1510, it changed, the future, it was the new world. Quote. Those who survived were all shocked and murmured. The Holy Land disappeared before their eyes, and what was left was a dark earth, like a pond. This pond used to contain a city, but now, all these have disappeared. For a long time, after about a quarter of an hour, the power of the Chang spear of the sky gradually subsided, and the power to disintegrate the world weakened. In a place in the dark earth, the last 3 of the Gorosei, 5 elders, all with a dull expression, knelt down in a daze. The national treasure disappeared. It disintegrated and was beaten to powder in an instant. Have we been fighting such monsters all this time? The 3 murmured in silence, losing their fighting spirit. After seeing such power, no one would have the will to fight anymore. Whitebeard couldn't help being shocked, and it was difficult to calm down for a while. Under that kind of power, the 4 emperors, admiral, national treasure, and immortals are all scorpions shaking the tree. Just like ordinary mortals, under the monstrous flood, any struggle is meaningless. Is this the real power of the Super 4 emperors, the great emperor? The old man with the mustache took a deep breath, but his face calmed down. He looked up at the sky and watched Qinyang approaching slowly, before them. It was you who won, and everyone underestimated your strength. It's wrong, it's not that I underestimate my strength, but you are overestimating your own strength. Qin Yang, Vivi Isho, stood in front of the three of them, and said very calmly, "You never underestimate me, you just think too highly of yourself." "Are you a god?" After a moment of silence, the hooded old man couldn't help asking. "God does not exist, so-called gods are just creatures with powers that are incomprehensible to human beings. No one stood in the sky from the beginning, but it will be different in the future. Your government has sat on the Earth's emperor for 800 years. In the future, I will sit on the throne of this sky." Is this declaring yourself to be God today? Gorosei, 5 elders silently then had to admit that Emperor Qin was indeed no different from a god. "In the end, you still win." The long-bearded old man sighed and said, "Whatever you think, you won't let the three of us go. But before dying, there are a few requests. Come and listen to it." Qin Yang said. "You destroy our government, and the next step is to create a new order, isn't it? There is no need to eliminate the remaining forces. With your power, as long as you exist for one day, no one can subvert your will." "Are you pleading for Marine? Do you think I'm begging for mercy for Tenryubito?" He. Qin Yang smiled. "Yes, I promise you. Marine will still exist, and I have no plans to do anything to Marine. As for Tenryubito, except for a limited number of people, they will be exterminated. Marine can leave it alone, but Tenryubito is different, not because Qin Yang is unhappy with Tenryubito, but simply because Tenryubito is the ruler of the old world. If he doesn't kill them all, there will always be problems." Hearing this, the long-bearded old man nodded and said, "We are sinners. The world government that has existed for 800 years has never expected to usher in the day of its demise. It is our own corruption. Even without you, I am afraid it will be sooner or later. The heirs of the will of D, the enemies of God, will also stand before us sooner or later." Having said this, he smiled. "Qin D, you'd better be careful with them too. It's better not to follow in our footsteps. If that day comes, I'll be very happy to meet you in hell." After he finished speaking, he laughed miserably, and pulled out a slap in the face. As soon as he gritted his teeth, he stabbed the sidewalk into his abdomen. Our sin is lack of strength, and those who pursue eternal life are ultimately empty. Puff. Wakazashi scratched a hole and carved a 1 in front of his chest and abdomen. The long-bearded old man was full of blood, roared loudly, and fell to the ground dead. Before he died, what he shouted was, "The reincarnation of heaven, you dream, and sooner or later there will be such a day." And hearing this, Qin Yang was completely unmoved. "The curse of the loser, you too, want me to do it?" Seeing this, the remaining 2 Gorosei, 5 elders looked at each other with sad expressions. After a while, one of them said, "Last question, I hope to get an answer. Say, Jabra Lear, the guy with the sword, how's it going?" "Who knows, I sold him to the Revolutionary Army. You have to ask Monkey D. Long about that." "Really, looks like he's dead." With a sigh, one of them slapped their forehead and the other slapped their heart, and they all died. So far, 5 people with the highest power in the world have died one after another. One was betrayed, one was killed by a national treasure, one was cut to the stomach, one heart stopped, and one brain died. Qin Yang didn't feel much emotion, just glanced at the 3 corpses, and then his voice spread out and spread throughout the battlefield. "Marine, surrender now, you can spare you from dying. As for the others, Doflamingo, go and kill all the fleeing Tenryubito, leaving a Manegal. As for the rest of the slaves, servants, whatever they want." After that, Qin Yang didn't bother to pay attention to Marine, and turned around and walked in one direction. "Kaido, Big Mom, come with me, the 4th red stone has been found." Hearing this, Kaido's expressions froze, and then they quickly followed. The 2 men's subordinates stayed behind to shock the scene. At the same time, on a mountain far away from the Holy Land, Kuzan and Kizaru stood side by side. Looking at the emptiness of the once magnificent urbanization, Kizaru couldn't say a word, but he was lucky in his heart that he was still alive. Kuzan lifted the travel bag under his feet and turned to leave. The old world has perished, and the new order will soon be established. Kizaru, what are your plans? What plan can the old man have? The dream group, they are all terrible guys. Anyway, Marine doesn't need the old man. The old man should find a place and retire quietly. Brucelino, won't you come with me? Kuzan smiled and said, I happen to be going somewhere. You will be interested too. Where? Marine Cemetery.